Chapter 1773 Ranking. As Jian Wushuang listened, he could not help but be visibly moved. The Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list represented the group of top existences in the eternal chaotic world. Among them, anyone could be an overlord of the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang, the battle between you and Emperor God Tian Shao has allowed you to get into the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list as well. At the same time, ever since the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list was released, you were also the first person who got into the ranking list as a real god. As for your ranking, you can take a good look at it yourself, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang browsed through the ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list carefully at once. First in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, Emperor Bai. With regards to the first ranking, Jian Wushuang was not surprised at all. Emperor Bai was the strongest person in the Sanctuary Alliance, and he was recognized as the number one by the whole eternal chaotic world. He was an almighty level inverse cultivator, which was a super existence who could kill great emperors easily. Next second, Red Dragon King third, Abysmal Saint Master fourth, Ancestor Tian Chun fifth, Great Emperor Zisu sixth, Colored Glaze Emperor 14th, Purple Moon Emperor 15th, Yen Zun from the 2nd to 15th place. All of them were Great Emperor level super experts. It should be known that the Sanctuary Alliance only had a total of 13 Great Emperors. As for the 2 additional Great Emperors, they did not join the Sanctuary Alliance. After the 15 Great Emperors, there was a large number of Emperor Gods. The Emperor God ranked 16th was called Underworld God. The Underworld God. Jian Wushuang also looked at the information regarding the Underworld God. The Underworld God had only become a peak expert 4 million years ago. To date, his training time amounted to less than 5 million years. 5 million years might seem very long to Jian Wushuang. However, to many of the Emperor God Almighties, 5 million years was considered too short. In the eternal chaotic world, most of the Almighties had lived for over 10 million years, while some of them had lived for tens of millions of years, or even hundreds of millions of years. For example, about the oldest person, Emperor Bai, in the Sanctuary Alliance, it was said that he was a remnant of the First Era. Hence, he had definitely lived for an extremely long period of time already. As for the Underworld God, he was able to make it into the 16th position on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and become the number one among the Emperor Gods, after training for less than 5 million years. With that, he was only inferior to the 15 great emperors, and one could imagine how powerful and talented he was. Moreover, previously, the Sanctuary Alliance had always thought that he was an expert who was the closest to, and also had the highest hopes of, becoming a new great emperor. As for his accomplishments, they were extremely brilliant as well. He had once competed against 4 top emperor gods by himself. In the end, he had killed 2 of them, and seriously injured the remaining 2 people. 11 emperor gods had once teamed up to deploy a shocking killing formation to besiege him. In the end, he had torn the killing formation apart, and killed all of them. It was also rumored that the Underworld God had fought with a great emperor before. Moreover, he had lasted for a very long period of time against the great emperor. With such brilliant accomplishments, even Jian Wushuang clicked his tongue in admiration when he saw it. The Underworld God could indeed be recognized as the number one among the Emperor Gods. Even with 4 top Emperor Gods teaming up, they were still defeated by him easily. If I were to come across him, I would probably have no way of resisting, Jian Wushuang gasped. However, it was fortunate that the Underworld God was someone from the Sanctuary Alliance, and he was not connected to the lineage of Star in any way. Hence, he would absolutely not make trouble for Jian Wushuang for no reason. After that, Jian Wushuang continued to look at the rankings. For the top Emperor Gods who were behind the Underworld God, all of them had shocking abilities. However, compared to the Underworld God, their accomplishments were obviously lacking. In no time, Jian Wushuang saw a name, 22nd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, Emperor God Tianling. Damn it! The strongest person in the Soaring Heaven King Palace actually has such a high ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list? Jian Wushuang exclaimed with admiration. The Soaring Heaven King Palace had a total of 2 founders who were both emperor gods. Among their 2 emperor gods, Emperor God Tian Shao oversaw the Soaring Heaven land. As for Emperor God Tian Ling, he traveled in the second layer throughout the year. Although the both of them had founded the Soaring Heaven King Palace together, in terms of abilities, Emperor God Tian Ling was a lot more powerful than Emperor God Tian Shao. 22nd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Putting the 15 great emperors aside, Emperor God Tian Ling could be said to be ranked 7th out of the large number of emperor gods in the eternal chaotic world. This was already an extremely high ranking. Not only did this mean that he stood at the very top of the emperor gods, this also meant that he could suppress any normal top emperor gods if he were to encounter them. For example, Emperor God Tian Ling could probably kill emperor gods who were of a similar level to Emperor God Shuegu. If this Emperor God Tian Ling were to come out of the second layer and hunt me down, he would definitely be a threat to me. However, I have many trump cards with me. If I were to really go all out, he might not be able to do anything against me, Jian Wushuang murmured. He was extremely confident in the great number of trump cards he possessed. Jian Wushuang continued to look at the rankings further back. When he reached the 31st position of the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, his eyes paused again. At the same time he revealed a smile. The person in the 31st position was the most important person in the lineage of Star, the Star Palace Master. Although the Palace Master's abilities are unable to match the abilities of Emperor God Tian Ling, he is not too far away from him. Moreover, the Palace Master's trump card is even more powerful. Jian Wushuang laughed. The information on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list also mentioned about the Star Palace Master, strongest trump card, the secret skill of Star Palace. As soon as it was unleashed, he could kill many emperor gods. Even if it were the underworld god who was ranked first among the emperor gods, for a short amount of time, he could only take evasive measures. The Palace Master has also cultivated the second volume of the secret skill of 7 Star, secret skill of Star Palace. As soon as he unleashes it, his power will rise by 100 times. Within a breath's time, the fighting capabilities that he can unleash will indeed rival that of a normal great emperor, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang continued looking at the rankings. When he saw the 48th position, his expression changed abruptly. The person in the 48th position of the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list was Emperor God Shuegu. Emperor God Shuegu is indeed very powerful, and he is already extremely close to the top of an emperor god. Hence, it is normal for him to be ranked 48th. The thing is, he is already dead? Jian Wushuang had a puzzled expression. He knew that Emperor God Shuegu had died in the Buddhist Demon Sea. However, only him as well as a few people in the lineage of Star knew about this. Moreover, the lineage of Star did not make this piece of news public. As such, the Sanctuary Alliance still had no idea that Emperor God Shuegu had already died. Therefore, they still included his name on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Emperor God Shuegu was ranked 48th. As for Emperor God Tian Shao, he was ranked 56th as his abilities were weaker than those of Emperor God Shuegu. When I fought with Emperor God Tian Shao head-on, I was never at a disadvantage. As such, I was able to get onto the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Since Emperor God Tian Shao is ranked 56th, my ranking should be extremely close to his, Jian Wushuang muttered. As expected, Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up. He had already seen his own name, 61st in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Jian Wushuang, a real God-inverse cultivator. Chapter 1774 Never-Ending Massacre. They even gave a clear indication of my realm and my identity as an inverse cultivator. Jian Wushuang smiled. As for his battle achievements, they didn't even bring up the incident where he had severely injured Sir God Qianlan in the 8th layer. Only his battle achievement on Sea Continent. Had killed Sir God Qi Xing with one palm. Barged into Soaring Heaven Mansion alone. Broke the formation of Everlasting Green formed by 4 Sir Gods, and killed 3 of them. At the end, he was well matched with Sir God Tian Shao. Such a battle achievement is more than enough to be listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. However, to be in the 61st place, I'm afraid it isn't convincing enough. Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose. He had fought with Sir God Tian Shao. Although the fight was too close to call, it was because it was too close to call that it was hard to determine. After all, those who didn't watch the battle, how would they know if Sir God Tian Shao gave his all? And how would they know if Jian Wushuang was severely injured in the battle? In short, it was rather unconvincing to be in the 61st place with such a battle achievement. Who cares? If there was anyone who is unhappy with it, I'll fight with them until they are convinced. Jian Wushuang smiled. Those listed further down the list were ordinary emperor gods, and some top Sir gods, who could be evenly matched with emperor gods. The list ended at the 132nd place. Among the 132 heaven and earth supremes, there were 15 great emperor and 81 emperor gods, and the rest were top Sir gods. It should be all the higher-ups in eternal chaotic world. Even if there were some hidden experts, there shouldn't be a lot of them. And of course, the experts under the command of a hidden dark force like Holocaust Sect and Acheron Palace wouldn't be included in heaven and earth supreme ranking list. After Jian Wushuang skimmed through the ranking list, he let out a heavy sigh. I never expected that there would be so many experts in eternal chaotic world. There were 15 great emperors and 81 emperor gods. Jian Wushuang muttered. Although my fighting power enabled me to be listed on heaven and earth supreme ranking list, I was merely in the 61st place. Although I am at the peak of the pyramid in eternal chaotic world, I am not the strongest. Only if I continuously break through and step foot on the 7th step of inverse cultivation, as soon as possible, then I can become an almighty. By then, I should be able to compare favorably with the great emperor. By then, I will have the capital to run wild in eternal chaotic world. As of now, I am far from that. Then, Jian Wushuang stood up as he looked into the distance. At the end of his view, there was a huge mountain. The mountain had an Aryadiva crystal vein, which was extremely rare. The crystal vein had been conquered by Soaring Heaven King Palace. They had more than 20 real gods, including 3 chaotic real gods who attended to garrison duty all year round. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang plunged, and he arrived in the void above the mountain after a short while. The moment he appeared, rumble. An enormous amount of divine might spread across like the anger of the universe. Divine might and divine power compensated one another. Jian Wushuang's divine power was parallel to an emperor god's. Hence, the divine might was naturally at the emperor god level. As the terrifying divine might spread across the mountain, the cultivators in the mountain suddenly shivered in fear under the divine might. Within the range of my soul power, there are a total of 23 real gods. These real gods are all from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace have to die. Jian Wushuang harbored intense murderous intention, and he immediately started a massacre. That day, Jian Wushuang came to the mountain and killed the 23 real gods of Soaring Heaven King Palace, who guard the mountain, in less than 10 breaths' time. He killed all of them without leaving anyone alive. Half a month later, Jian Wushuang appeared in a palace branch of Soaring Heaven King Palace on Sea Continent. Before countless cultivators' gazes, Jian Wushuang broke the palace branch into pieces with one palm. At the same time, he crushed the palace branch into dust. There were many experts in the palace branch, including 10 real gods. All of them died. Only the disciples who were weaker escaped by luck. 3 months later, on a huge island that was sealed off from the outside world, Jian Wushuang was in his crimson robe, and he harbored boundless murderous intention. He took a stride forward, and he wielded his sword. He cut the island into 2. Then he swung his sword across. He killed all the real gods on the island. 6 months later, 3 real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace returned to Soaring Heaven Land from other places. Before they arrived in Soaring Heaven King Palace, they met a swordsman in a crimson robe. The swordsman in a crimson robe only asked if the 3 of them were from Soaring Heaven King Palace. The 3 of them answered yes. Then the swordsman in crimson robe pointed and killed the 3 real gods instantly. 1 year later, massacre, a never-ending bloodbath. Jian Wushuang had turned into death himself. He first started in Sea Continent, then to Soaring Heaven Land, that Soaring Heaven King Palace ruled over the years. He massacred the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace all over. Whenever Jian Wushuang launched an attack, it would be experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace that were the level of real gods or higher. They stood almost no chance of escape. As for universe gods, those who were weak could escape, but those universe gods who were stronger would be killed by Jian Wushuang mercilessly. Regardless of sea continent or Soaring Heaven land, the territories that Soaring Heaven King Palace conquered were in a bloodbath carried out by Jian Wushuang. According to incomplete statistics, in the 10 years, the number of real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace that were killed by Jian Wushuang was more than several hundreds. There were over 30 eternal real gods and more than a dozen chaotic real gods. It had only been 10 years. The terrifying massacre shook the 2 pieces of land and shook the entire Sanctuary Alliance. It also shocked countless cultivators in Eternal Chaotic World. Death, Demon, Madman, all the titles fell upon Jian Wushuang. At first, they were in awe of Jian Wushuang's power. But then, the experts were terrified by Jian Wushuang's brutality and massacre skills. Luckily, Jian Wushuang was only aiming at Soaring Heaven King Palace. Hence, not everyone was in danger. In the 10 years, Soaring Heaven King Palace wasn't only in defense. They tried many ways, and even Emperor God Tian Shao got involved personally. However, Jian Wushuang wasn't weaker than Emperor God Tian Shao. Jian Wushuang wanted to kill, and Emperor God Tian Shao couldn't do anything about it. He also intended to use his trump cards to kill Jian Wushuang. However, the trump cards that he could perform couldn't kill Jian Wushuang, and the stronger ones were required to be performed within the lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace. But Jian Wushuang wasn't stupid, and he wouldn't barge into the lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace hastily. This also led to Jian Wushuang's never-ending massacre. However, the higher-ups in Soaring Heaven King Palace could only watch. Such a massacre shocked everyone. Chapter 1775 Recall. This Jian Wushuang, not only is he extremely talented, he killed with great resolve, and he is no different from old bastards like us who have lived for many years. The path of the strong has always been full of ups and downs, and every one of them was born from endless massacres. Now the Soaring Heaven King Palace has become Jian Wushuang's stepping stone. I reckon that Jian Wushuang wants to use the Soaring Heaven King Palace to warn everyone of the consequences of provoking him. This time around, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has provoked a malignant star, and it will be really miserable for them. The Soaring Heaven King Palace's way of doing things has always been unreasonable. If not for them having such great backgrounds, they would have been destroyed a long time ago. This time around, they have finally suffered losses from someone who they thought was weak. Jian Wushuang has already been massacring to his heart's content for 10 years. The Soaring Heaven King Palace's Emperor God Tian Shao has taken action many times. However, he was unable to do anything against him. If Jian Wushuang were to continue his massacre, no matter how many experts the Soaring Heaven King Palace had, the Soaring Heaven King Palace would run out of them eventually. I wonder what the Soaring Heaven King Palace will do next. Could it be that they would get Emperor God Tianling, who has always been traveling in the second lair, to return personally? Apart from that, there seems to be no other way. In the whole Sanctuary Alliance, countless experts were having a discussion enthusiastically. They were all discussing Jian Wushuang, as well as the clash between Jian Wushuang and the Soaring Heaven King Palace. The past 10 years of massacre had allowed everyone to really know what kind of person Jian Wushuang was. As such, innumerable experts started to respect him. At the same time that they were shocked and exclaiming with admiration, all of them were guessing the next move of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. In a lofty palace in the Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Tian Shao was sitting down on a throne, which was 3 meters tall. Below him was a large number of high-level experts, which included the few Sir Gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Has the large number of real gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace been recalled? Emperor God Tian God was looking down at one of the people below him. This person was Sir God Qing Fu. Palace Master. 99% of the Soaring Heaven King Palace's real gods, who were in the Soaring Heaven Land and Sea Continent, have already returned. Only a few real gods are still on their way back, Sir God Qing Fu said respectfully. However, he was still filled with dissatisfaction. Palace Master, do we really have to recall all the real gods back to our base just because of this Jian Wushuang? Even though things have already reached this stage, you are still underestimating him? Emperor God Tian Shao gave a cold snort. Don't forget, Jian Wushuang has now gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he is already one of the Heaven and Earth Supremes of the eternal chaotic world. Even if I were to take action, I would be unable to do anything against him. Currently, he has gone on a crazy killing spree in the soaring heaven, land, and sea continent. If I were to not call back all those real gods, wouldn't that mean I am waiting for all of them to be killed by Jian Wushuang? As soon as Emperor God Tian Shao's words left his mouth, the whole hall went silent immediately. At the start, the soaring Heaven King Palace did not care about Jian Wushuang at all, and they had thought that with their abilities, killing Jian Wushuang would be the same as stepping on an ant and killing it. As for Jian Wushuang provoking the soaring Heaven King Palace, it was just the weak attacking the strong. However, no one had expected Jian Wushuang's abilities to rise to such an extent in such a short period of time. Even with Emperor God Tian Shao taking action personally, he was still unable to do anything against him. To date, Jian Wushuang had gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he was already standing at the very top of the pyramid in the eternal chaotic world. No one dared to disregard such an expert. Even though that's the case, we are merely tackling the problem on the surface by recalling all the real gods. After all, the large number of experts of the soaring Heaven King Palace cannot possibly hide in the base all the time and not go out, right? Sir God Qing Fu said with a deep voice. We have to think of a way to kill Jian Wushuang. With this, we will be able to avoid any trouble in the future. Everyone around him nodded their heads in succession. However, they knew that it would not be easy to kill Jian Wushuang. Palace Master, why not get Lord Tianling to take action? Sir God Qing Fu only managed to say a few words. Big Brother cannot take action temporarily. Emperor God Tian Shao waved his hands. Not long ago, Big Brother sent me a message and told me that he had found an opportunity in the second lair. This opportunity was exceptional, and if he were to be able to obtain it, his abilities would skyrocket. Although he would not be able to become a great emperor, he would be able to reach a level similar to that of the underworld god. The underworld god? The few Sir Gods below were all shocked. The underworld god, the person recognized as the number one among the emperor gods by the eternal chaotic world. He was a super existence who could kill top emperor gods easily. Moreover, his position among the emperor gods was just like the position of emperor by among the great emperors. If Emperor God Tianling were to be able to reach a level similar to that of the underworld god, it would be a very delightful thing to the soaring Heaven King Palace. Big Brother has been thinking of ways to obtain that opportunity. Now, he is at the critical moment, so how can he be interrupted by Jian Wushuang like this? Emperor God Tian Shao said. Since Lord Tianling is unable to take action, what about the high-level experts in the Sanctuary Alliance? After all, our soaring Heaven King Palace is a member of the Sanctuary Alliance. If we were to get them to come, Sir God Qing Fu said, forget about the Sanctuary Alliance. Emperor God Tianling shook his head again. This Jian Wushuang is different from the others. He is an inverse cultivator, who is extremely talented with unlimited potential. If he were to continue growing, there is even the hope of him achieving a level similar to that of Emperor Bai in the future. At the least, he will become a new great emperor. An expert like him with such potential is valued highly by the Sanctuary Alliance. If there is no need to, the old bastards in the Sanctuary Alliance will definitely not take action against Jian Wushuang. For example, although he is currently massacring real gods wantonly, he himself is still a real god. A real god massacring real gods. Moreover, he is only massacring the real gods of the soaring Heaven King Palace. Furthermore, the grudge acts as an appropriate reason for him to do so. As such, no matter how many real god he kills, the high-level experts in the Sanctuary Alliance will naturally not care about it. Moreover, there is another point. This Jian Wushuang has always been acting alone. From start to finish, The lineage of star behind him has never shown themselves. Emperor God Tian Shao's expression turned gloomy. Jian Wushuang alone was already very difficult to deal with. According to logic, if there were the lineage of star on top of that, there would be even more pressure on the soaring Heaven King Palace. However, in actual fact that was not the case. After all, the lineage of star was a big powerhouse, and there were many real God and universe God disciples under them. If the lineage of star were to be involved, they could absolutely give them a taste of their own medicine. For example, if Emperor God Tian Shao were to charge into the star land and massacre the real gods of the lineage of star wantonly, the lineage of star might not be able to stop him. With that, there would be a balance, and the actions of both of them would be restricted. As such, Jian Wushuang would definitely not dare to continue his massacre. However, at that time, Jian Wushuang had always been acting alone, and the lineage of star had never shown themselves before. Hence, the clash this time around was Jian Wushuang's own personal matter, and it was unrelated to the lineage of star. Under such circumstances, if the soaring Heaven King Palace were to fight all the way to the lineage of star, they would start a great battle right away. Moreover, for this great battle, the soaring Heaven King Palace would be in the wrong, and probably none of the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance would stand on their side. Chapter 1776. Appointment. If so, soaring Heaven King Palace can't do anything about Jian Wushuang? Everyone in soaring Heaven King Palace looked distressed. If we want to kill him, it is impossible as of now. But it isn't difficult if we only want Jian Wushuang to retreat. Emperor God Tian Shao squinted his eyes. Send down my command. For the rest of the time, we of soaring Heaven King Palace shall stay put in the old lair. Without my permission, no one gets to leave. Yes. The underlings immediately took the order. In soaring Heaven Land, Jian Wushuang's massacre continued. However, as soaring Heaven King Palace summoned all their experts back, it was very difficult for Jian Wushuang to find a target. However, soaring Heaven King Palace's action shook Sanctuary Alliance. Soaring Heaven King Palace summoned all their experts back to soaring Heaven Land and Sea Continent. Does soaring Heaven King Palace intend to ostrich and have all the experts under their command hide in their old lair? Impossible. Soaring Heaven King Palace has always been arrogant. Their foundation and power is extraordinary. With Jian Wushuang alone, it will be impossible for him to force soaring Heaven King Palace into such a position. If I'm not mistaken, soaring Heaven King Palace definitely has their way to deal with Jian Wushuang. We shall see. The experts from various forces watched quietly. The time flew past. 1 month, 2 months, half a year. Soaring Heaven King Palace was extremely peaceful, and there were no experts above real God level who left the old lair. The experts from all forces in Sanctuary Alliance was confused. Soaring Heaven King Palace really can't do anything about Jian Wushuang, and they decided to be an ostrich? Just as most experts thought, Soaring Heaven King Palace finally made a move. Soaring Heaven King Palace spread news that Emperor God Tian Shao would throw a banquet in Clear Sky City on Soaring Heaven Land in 1 month's time to see Jian Wushuang personally. The moment the news spread, everyone was shocked. Some said that Soaring Heaven King Palace meant that they had already set up a trap to kill Jian Wushuang, and they were only waiting for his arrival. Some even said that Soaring Heaven King Palace couldn't do anything about Jian Wushuang. Hence, they had no choice but to talk to Jian Wushuang. In other words, Soaring Heaven King Palace yielded to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was the main character of the incident, naturally received the news at the first instant. To meet me, Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose, and there was a malicious smile. Jian Wushuang, Soaring Heaven King Palace has always been barbaric. Ever since Emperor God Tianling and Emperor God Tian Shao established Soaring Heaven King Palace, they have only bowed to great emperors or experts like Underworld God. But now, although you have made Soaring Heaven King Palace suffered a great loss, the 2 greatest authorities, especially Emperor God Tianling, are still alive. They definitely won't yield to you so easily. Hence, this meetup might be a trap, Hall Master Yuan said. Trap? Jian Wushuang thought for a while and asked, Hall Master Yuan, is there any news about Emperor God Tianling's return? No. I have someone to guard at the second lair. I am sure that Emperor God Tianling is still in the second lair. Hall Master Yuan answered. How about the other experts on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list? Jian Wushuang asked. It's strange. The experts of Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list, besides the Sir God who was further back on the list, that has always stayed in Soaring Heaven Land, there aren't any other experts who have returned to Soaring Heaven Land, Hall Master Yuan said. When Jian Wushuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace had fought head-on, Hall Master Yuan utilized Lineage of Star and used the resources in Sanctuary Alliance to keep watch of experts who could threaten Jian Wushuang. However, he didn't receive any news about any experts who went to Soaring Heaven Land. Emperor God Tianling didn't return, nor did the experts on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list come back. How can Soaring Heaven King Palace kill me? Could it be with other trump cards? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. No way. If Soaring Heaven King Palace could really play any trump cards that could threaten me, they would have played them long ago. They definitely wouldn't wait until now. What could it be? Even Jian Wushuang had no idea what Soaring Heaven King Palace's intention was. Regardless of Soaring Heaven King Palace's intention, it's best that you don't go for the meetup, Hall Master Yuan advised. No, Soaring Heaven King Palace invited me sincerely, how can I not go? No matter what their plot is, even if there is a trap, I, Jian Wushuang, will deal with it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. One should know that, even when he was the target of a scheme by Acheron Palace back in Buddhist Demon Sea, he made a narrow escape and survived. His power increased tremendously too. If Acheron Palace was capable of that, Jian Wushuang didn't think Soaring Heaven King Palace could be more clever than Acheron Palace. Plus, Jian Wushuang was confident in his trump cards too. If you insist to go, go ahead. But just in case, I will report this to Palace Master, and have Palace Master make a trip to Soaring Heaven Land. If there were to be any unexpected events, Soaring Heaven King Palace wouldn't dare to attack hastily if Palace Master were to be there, Hall Master Yuan said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and made a decision. 1 month later it was clear and fresh. On Soaring Heaven Land, in Clear Sky City, countless cultivators were gathered. The cultivators were naturally there to watch Jian Wushuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace's meetup. In the void above Clear Sky City, there was a pedestal floating in the air quietly. On the pedestal there were 2 long narrow tables. In front of one of the tables, a man in a golden robe sat with his eyes closed. The man in the golden robe was Emperor God Tian Shao's original body. The cultivators gathered in Clear Sky City saw Emperor God Tian Shao, and they looked at him in awe. Emperor God Tian Shao is one of the founders of Soaring Heaven King Palace. Such a legendary figure, I can finally see him with my own eyes. I can die with no regrets now. Although Emperor God Tian Shao was amazing, I admire Jian Wushuang more. He is only in the realm of real God, and he can shake Soaring Heaven King Palace. It is said that Emperor God Tian Shao could only be evenly matched with him. Countless cultivators were talking among themselves. Just then, haha, Emperor God Tian Shao, I'm sorry to make you wait. There was a burst of hearty laughter that reverberated in the universe. Then, there was a figure in a crimson robe that appeared and walked over from the void far away. He was walking slowly, but every step he took brought about a mysterious boundless divine might that was not second to Emperor God Tian Shao. It spread along his footsteps. Countless cultivators lifted their heads simultaneously, looking at the incomer. Their eyes were filled with admiration and passion. It took a while until the figure in crimson reached the pedestal and came before Emperor God Tian Shao. Emperor God Tian Shao, who had been sitting there with his eyes closed, finally opened his eyes. He looked at Jian Wushuang solemnly and waved his hand. Take a seat. Jian Wushuang then sat down by the side of the empty long, narrow table in front of him. Chapter 1777. Unable to do anything as Jian Wushuang took his seat, the huge Clear Sky City quietened down completely. Everyone had raised their heads, and they were looking at the stage on top. Only 2 people remained in their lines of vision. These 2 people were naturally Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Tian Shao, 2 super experts who were in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, Two super existences who could frighten the eternal chaotic world. Apart from the two of them, the small number of Sir Gods who had come with the soaring Heaven King Palace did not have the right to stand on that stage. Atop the stage, Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Tian Shao were 100 meters apart from each other, their eyes looking at one another and glowing with a shrill light. The space had frozen completely a long time ago. After a long time, Emperor God Tian Shao was the first to speak. Jian Wushuang, even I have no choice but to admire you. You actually dared to come for this appointment. Aren't you scared that I would set a trap here and besiege you? No matter what traps and trump cards your soaring Heaven King Palace has, go ahead and bring all of them out. No matter what they are, I, Jian Wushuang, will wipe them out by myself. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Is that so? Murderous intent shone in Emperor God Tian Shao. At that moment, he wanted to take action right away and combine his attacks with some of the techniques that he had prepared in their current location previously to kill Jian Wushuang on the spot. If I were to take action, there would only be a 30% chance of me getting my way. Emperor God Tian Shao was hesitating. However, his expression changed abruptly. The old monster of the Star Palace? Emperor God Tian Shao's eyes shrank violently. He had already noticed the Star Palace Master, who was in the void nearby. However, the Star Palace Master did not show himself. Seems like you have made some preparations as well. Emperor God Tian Shao laughed coldly. He knew that since the Star Palace Master was nearby, it would be impossible for him to take action and kill Jian Wushuang straight away. Firstly, even if he were to go all out, he was only 30% sure that he could do it, and 30% was not high. Moreover, even if his luck were good and he was able to kill Jian Wushuang, at the critical moment, the Star Palace Master would probably not stand by and look on. However, as long as Jian Wushuang was not in a situation where he would die, the Star Palace Master would probably not take action at all. Emperor God Tian Shao, tell me bluntly, why did you get me to come here personally? Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. It's simple. I want you to leave the soaring heaven land and the sea continent, Emperor God Tian Shao said. Haha, my massacre has only just begun, and you want me to leave now? On what grounds? Jian Wushuang sneered. With regards to the soaring Heaven King Palace, which had attempted to kill him many times, Jian Wushuang would absolutely not show them any mercy. At that moment, although he had killed quite a number of experts in the soaring Heaven King Palace, and he had forced the experts of the soaring Heaven King Palace to hole up in their base, it was still not enough. It was far from enough. His flames of fury were not something that could completely subside by just killing a number of Sir Gods and some real gods. He wanted to fight the soaring Heaven King Palace until they were struck with fear, and fight them until they knelt down on the ground to beg for forgiveness. If he had the ability to do so, he even wanted to eliminate the soaring Heaven King Palace completely. At that moment, Emperor God Tian Shao wanted to stop him with just his words alone. Would that be possible? Jian Wushuang, your techniques are indeed impressive. Even if the soaring Heaven King Palace wanted to kill you, it would be absolutely difficult for us to do so. However, this does not mean that the soaring Heaven King Palace will really be afraid of you. The background of the soaring Heaven King Palace is not something that you can imagine. Emperor God Tian Shao's voice was ice cold. With a flip of his palm, he took out a token. Jian Wushuang's eyes squinted. Jian Wushuang, didn't you ask me on what grounds? Let me tell you that it's this token in my hand. Emperor God Tian Shao laughed coldly. After that, he exerted force in his palm and crushed the token right away. The moment the token was crushed, there was no frightening power that was expected to burst forth. It was obvious that the token did not contain any technique that could kill Jian Wushuang. However, after the token was destroyed, an aura spread slowly. The aura was completely different from that of a Sir God or an Emperor God. It was a supreme aura, which could stand at the top of the eternal chaotic world. The aura only belonged to one kind of realm, and it was called Great Emperor. The aura of a Great Emperor expert. Jian Wushuang's expression changed abruptly. Under his attention, a huge, cold and arrogant figure took shape slowly. She was more than 5 meters tall and curvaceous. Moreover, She had a beautiful face and possessed indescribable elegance and nobility. As soon as she appeared in the void, her eyes, which could cause serious injuries to everything by looking down at them, swept over the area. Everyone, including the Star Palace Master as well as Emperor God Tian Shao, who her eyes swept past, could not help but lower their heads. Even if it were Jian Wushuang, no matter how unwilling he was, he could only lower his head at that moment. I am Tian Shao. Greetings to Colored Glaze Emperor. Emperor God Tian Shao was the first person to bow down and greet the elegant woman. Greetings to Colored Glaze Emperor. Similarly, many experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace greeted her respectfully. Jian Wushuang's expression was a bit ugly. However, he still bowed to her respectfully. There was no choice. The abilities of a great emperor-level supreme existence were right there. Not mentioning Jian Wushuang. Even if the underworld god, who was the number one among the emperor gods, was present, he would need to greet her respectfully. You are Jian Wushuang? The colored glaze emperor's eyes was not filled with any feeling at all. She was looking down at Jian Wushuang, as though she was looking down at an ant. That's right. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The Soaring Heaven King Palace once forced you into a hopeless situation. However, you have already killed 4 Sir Gods, as well as many real gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Hence the grudge is resolved. From today, unless the Soaring Heaven King Palace provokes you again, you shall not kill any experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace within the Colored Glaze Sanctuary. If you go against this, you'll die. An ice-cold voice reverberated across the universe. Every word contained an infinite amount of god power, and so much pressure was exerted on everyone that they were suffocating. After her words left her mouth, the colored glaze emperor's figure dissipated slowly and completely turned into nothingness in the end. It was not until the colored glaze emperor's shadow dissipated that the large number of cultivators present heaved a long sigh of relief. Jian Wushuang got up. As he looked in the direction that the colored glaze emperor had left in, his expression turned gloomy. Haha, Jian Wushuang, did you hear the colored glaze emperor's words clearly? Emperor God Tian Shao's laughter, filled with ridicule, could be heard. His eyes then looked at Jian Wushuang with disdain. I have said before that the background of the Soaring Heaven King Palace is not as simple as you think. The Soaring Heaven King Palace has been dominating the Colored Glaze Sanctuary for many years. Moreover, we have occupied 2 pieces of land. For us to be able to do this, how would we not be related to the Colored Glaze Emperor at all? Jian Wushuang had an ugly expression. He had not expected the Soaring Heaven King Palace to make such a move. Since a great emperor had come personally, even if it were him, he would be worried about it. Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Tian Shao's voice could be heard again. The colored glaze emperor's orders are clear. If you dare to continue killing the experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace in the Colored Glaze Sanctuary, even without the Soaring Heaven King Palace taking action, the Colored Glaze Emperor will definitely take action personally to kill you. Jian Wushuang, although you are strong, won't it still be easy for a great emperor to kill you? Now it's time for you to make a decision. Will you fight or will you retreat? Chapter 1778 Decision. War or Retreat? Emperor God Tian Shao's voice reverberated in Clear Sky City, and also in Jian Wushuang's heart. In Clear Sky City, countless cultivators fixed their gazes on Jian Wushuang. Everyone was waiting for Jian Wushuang's decision. Before everyone's gaze, Jian Wushuang's face was gloomy. There was chilliness in his eyes as murderous intention soared from his body. Die! 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 Jian Wushuang was dying to continue the massacre. He wanted to strike terror into Soaring Heaven King Palace's heart, and kill until no one dared to leave the lair anymore. However, his rationality was telling him clearly that Great Emperor Colored Glaze would come forward personally, and he would definitely be set against Great Emperor Colored Glaze if he were to continue the massacre. With his power then, it was no doubt a hopeless battle if he were to fight with the Great Emperor. He didn't even have the space to struggle, nor could anyone save him. Even the Master of Star Palace might not stand a chance to stay alive in the hands of a Great Emperor, let alone Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, hold on. You must hold on. King of Venomous Worm's voice rang in Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang, don't act on impulse. The master of Star Palace who was hidden in the dark sent him a message too. The dignity of a great emperor does not allow provocation. Great Emperor Colored Glaze came forward personally to give an order. If you were to go against her, Great Emperor Colored Glaze definitely wouldn't hesitate to kill you. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold, but his tightly clenched hand slowly loosened before everyone's attention. The soaring murderous intention instantly dispersed into the air, while his face grew calm as though nothing happened. The cultivators at the scene were impressed by the sight. Jian Wushuang has such a strong mental state. He was still raging with murderous intentions. He instantly reined them in and became calm. His emotional intelligence is almost perfect. Jian Wushuang doesn't seem to be carried away by resentment and rage. The cultivators were amazed. They could tell that Jian Wushuang had already reined in his murderous intention, and he naturally didn't intend to continue the massacre. In their viewpoint, it was the wisest choice. Emperor God Tian Shao's smile stiffened, and there was a glimpse of chilliness in his eyes. There was also a tinge of regret. At first, he had wanted to provoke Jian Wushuang, so that Jian Wushuang would pound at him under anger. Then, the great Emperor Colored Glaze could kill him and remove the enemy of Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang obviously wasn't fooled by him. Humph, Jian Wushuang, I thought a top genius like you would never yield. But it seems like you are only SOSO. Emperor God Tian Shao sneered. Tian Shao, what's there to be happy about? Jian Wushuang spoke, and his voice sounded cold. Ah! Emperor God Tian Shao looked at him. Soaring Heaven King Palace. The top force in eternal chaotic world was cornered into such a position by me, a real god. I even killed 4 of your Sir Gods, many real gods and universe gods, but you didn't utter a word about it. In the end, you pleaded to Great Emperor Colored Glaze to come forward on your behalf. Even so, you are not embarrassed to be happy about this? Jian Wushuang smirked. If I were you, I would have found a hole to hide. I wouldn't dare to come out and make a fool out of myself. B** starred. Emperor God Tian Shao is angry. Why, isn't it true? If you Soaring Heaven King Palace didn't plead for Great Emperor Colored Glaze to come forward, do you think you would have a chance to stand in front of me and speak to me? The experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace get to return alive, Jian Wushuang teased. Emperor God Tian Shao was raging with anger, but he suppressed his anger. He knew that Jian Wushuang was provoking him. If he were to take action against Jian Wushuang would instantly stand a chance to counterattack. Humph, I can't be bothered to talk to you. In short, if you kill anyone from Soaring Heaven King Palace again, just you wait and bear Great Emperor Colored Glaze's rage. Emperor God Tian Shao bellowed. Hee, Emperor God Tian Shao, I think you misunderstood Great Emperor Colored Glaze. She said that under the circumstance where Soaring Heaven King Palace doesn't take the initiative to provoke me, I can't kill the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace within Colored Glaze Sanctuary. In other words, out of Colored Glaze Sanctuary, Great Emperor Colored Glaze won't care who I want to kill, Jian Wushuang said coolly. Emperor God Tian Shao stunned. Yes, Great Emperor Colored Glaze did say so. Great Emperor Colored Glaze only restricted Jian Wushuang within Colored Glaze Sanctuary. She prohibited him to continue the massacre in her territory. But if he were to head to other places, Great Emperor Colored Glaze couldn't get involved. As long as Colored Glaze Sanctuary settles down, you can't tell who will be the one killing when you run into experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace wandering outside, Emperor God Tian Shao said. Emperor God Tian Shao was confident. His brother Emperor God Tian Ling was in a crucial period. As long as he gave Emperor God Tian Ling some time, he would be able to reach the level of Underworld God. By then, when Emperor God Tian Ling returned, wouldn't it be an easy task to kill Jian Wushuang? If so, I shall wait and see. Jian Wushuang glanced at Emperor God Tian Shao. Then he turned and walked out of the city. The cultivators in Clear Sky City saw that Jian Wushuang was leaving, and they became quiet. They knew that Jian Wushuang had no alternative. They could accept the outcome. However, what they didn't know was that Jian Wushuang's face immediately turned gloomy the moment he turned around. Soaring Heaven King Palace and Great Emperor Colored Glaze. Jian Wushuang's eyes glistened. Power. It comes down to the fact that I'm not powerful enough. Experts of great emperor level came forward personally, and I couldn't go against her instruction, but could only obey. If I were to become more powerful, it would be needless for me to become a great emperor, and I would only need to reach the level of underworld god. Then I'd be able to fight against a great emperor. I could even survive in the fight with a great emperor. By then, I can be fearless before great emperor colored glaze. Even if she wanted to stop me, I can just ignore her. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He possessed the fighting power of a Sir God, and he was on the 61 place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. He was already on the peak of eternal chaotic world. However, Jian Wushuang thought that he wasn't powerful enough. He still couldn't fight with a great emperor. When great emperor colored glaze gave an order, even though he harbored great resentment and felt aggrieved, he could only suppress it in his heart and leave. Soaring Heaven King Palace, I shall let you off the hook this time. However, it doesn't mean our resentment has ended. Just you wait. In no time, I will attack again. By then, I will flip Soaring Heaven King Palace upside down and kill all experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace. And Great Emperor Colored Glaze, you are stronger than me today. I have no choice but to retreat when you ask me to, but it's only a matter of time. I will crush you, a great emperor, under my foot. This day definitely won't be too far away. Chapter 1779 Ancient Mystery Land. Under the attention of many people, Jian Wushuang left the Colored Glaze Sanctuary. When the news spread to the Thunderbolt Island, experts from countless powerhouses were all extremely shocked. However, no one would look down on Jian Wushuang due to his choice. Instead, all of them admired and commended him. Quite a number of people thought even more highly of Jian Wushuang. After all, a great emperor had come personally. Who would dare to go against her? Jian Wushuang was quite powerful, to the point that he had gotten onto the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. However, he was not a hothead who would act recklessly. It is only by bearing with it for a short period of time, one will have the chance to get to that supreme level in the future. This was what Sir God Mad Dog, who was on good terms with Jian Wushuang, said when he got the news. For this battle, be it talents, abilities or nature, Jian Wushuang has no doubt shown us all of them. If he doesn't die along the way, he will definitely become a great emperor in the future. If he is able to obtain the training method for the 7th step of an inverse cultivator, it will not be difficult for him to achieve the level of a great emperor. Moreover, there might even be hope for him to reach a level close to emperor by in the future. Jian Wushuang is the #1 genius of the current era. Countless experts were gasping in admiration, and all of them had very high expectations of him. 10 days after Jian Wushuang had left the Colored Glaze Sanctuary, the attention of the experts of all the powerhouses in the eternal chaotic world shifted from Jian Wushuang to something else. An even bigger incident had occurred in the eternal chaotic world. The ancient mystery land is about to appear. This piece of news was like a storm which spread instantly. In the Purple Moon Sanctuary, there were tens of figures standing in the vast Milky Way of the Star Land. These figures were all deacon elders of the Star Land, as well as some chaotic real gods. As for the 3 people in front, they were the 3 Hall Masters. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Guexan, and Hall Master Shiyun were all standing over there, and all their faces wore smiles. In no time, 2 shadows appeared on a void that was far away. They were Jian Wushuang and the Star Palace Master. Haha, let's welcome our hero back. Hall Master Yuan laughed heartily. As for the elder deacons behind, they revealed scorching hot eyes which were filled with admiration. They had long known the news of Jian Wushuang massacring many experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, wantonly in the Soaring Heaven Land and Sea Continent. With regards to that, all the elder deacons were naturally inspired. It should be known that the Soaring Heaven King Palace had always been very unreasonable. Throughout the ages, they had always been the ones bullying others. Hence, when had they been bullied by others to the point that they had to use their trump card, and that many of their experts were massacred. Thus, this had helped to vent the anger of the lineage of Star, as well as many experts of the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance, who had once suffered losses in the hands of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. In particular, when they knew that Jian Wushuang had fought all the way to the Soaring Heaven Masnian alone, and had killed 4 almighties of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, all of them had been extremely shocked. Every almighty was a super existence. Even if it were a big powerhouse like the Soaring Heaven King Palace, they only had a total of 11 almighties, and 4 of them had been killed by Jian Wushuang in such a short amount of time. Even though Jian Wushuang had no choice but to stop his massacre due to the colored glaze emperor coming personally later on, he could already be considered brilliant with these accomplishments. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yin, why are the 3 of you here? Jian Wushuang appeared in front of everyone. We have come here to welcome you and the palace master back. Hall Master Yuan laughed. Hall Master Wushuang alone has killed 4 Sir Gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, and his power can match the power of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. He impressive. Hall Master Shi Yin gasped in admiration. Hall Master Wushuang, you are really admirable. Hall Master Gu Xian looked over. Please stop mocking me. Jian Wushuang laughed indifferently. Alright, let's continue talking in the cave. The Star Palace Master who was by the side said. Hall Master Yuan, and his group of people nodded their heads. After that, everyone headed inside the Milky Way. Within the extremely exquisite and spacious cave, the Star Palace was sitting at the highest point. As for the 4 Hall Masters, which included Jian Wushuang below, they were sitting around randomly. Jian Wushuang, this time around, you have killed 4 almighties of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, and you can be said to have inflicted heavy losses on them. Although the Soaring Heaven King Palace is unable to do anything against you for now, and they can only request the Colored Glaze Emperor to come personally to get you to stop, you cannot underestimate the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Just because of this, the Star Palace Master looked at Jian Wushuang. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said, currently, Emperor God Tianshao is the strongest person in the Soaring Heaven King Palace. This Emperor God Tianshao is considered nothing. The real person that the Soaring Heaven King Palace relies on should be Emperor God Tianling. It's good that you know. The Star Palace Master nodded his head. Emperor God Tianling is ranked 22nd on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. I have fought with him before, and his abilities are indeed considerably stronger than mine. Moreover, I have obtained information that this Emperor God Tianling seemed to have found some opportunities in the second layer over the past few years. Hence, his abilities might have risen. If he were to come out from the second layer in the future, there is a very high possibility of him coming to find you. As such, you had better take some precautions as well. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded his head again. He was not concerned about Emperor God Tianshao. However, Emperor God Tianling indeed had the right to attract his attention. In addition, I have a matter that I need all of you to know. The Star Palace Master's expression turned grave abruptly. I have just gotten a piece of news from the Sanctuary Alliance. In 10 years, the Ancient Mystery Land will open. Ancient Mystery Land? Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian, and Hall Master Shi Yin were all shocked. Only Jian Wushuang did not understand why it was so shocking. He had never heard of the Ancient Mystery Land. However, since the word ancient was mentioned, it was definitely related to the ancient past. The ancient past is the most powerful and prosperous era of this universe. There were countless experts. During that era, even great emperors were considered nothing. However, for whatever reason, a great battle burst forth in the ancient past, and this caused the whole era to collapse completely. Moreover, even many territories of the ancient past were completely reduced to a battlefield. These ancient battlefields contain many secrets and opportunities of the ancient past. As such, to cultivators of the second era like us, they are extremely attractive. In the eternal chaotic world, there are quite a number of known ancient battlefields. The second layer to 8th layer are probably territories from the ancient past that have been destroyed. For example, the Buddhist Demon Sea in the 6th layer has been said to come about due to an ancient battlefield collapsing. The Star Palace Master's voice reverberated within the cave. Upon hearing the Buddhist Demon Sea, Jian Wushuang could not help but recall the two shocking experts who were hidden in the deepest part of the Buddhist demon sea. To Jian Wushuang, those two experts were so powerful that it was earth-shaking. Even if there were a great emperor expert, he would be considered nothing in front of them. As for the one-star man who was one of the two experts, he had rescued him and given him an opportunity. At that time, from what the Star Palace Master had said, Jian Wushuang could confirm that the two experts, which was inclusive of the one-star man in the Buddhist demon sea, were experts from the ancient past. However, they had always been in a deep sleep. They were the same as Long Qi's master, the 7-star Black Sex super expert, who had been in a deep sleep in the standalone space in the dark region of the 8th layer's core region. Chapter 1780 Great Opportunity. In the cave dwelling, the Master of Star Palace continued casually. Of course, no matter if it is Buddhist Demon Sea or other places, they are only miniature territories that broke from the true ancient battlefield, just like a drop of ocean water from a boundless ocean. In eternal chaotic world, there are two known boundless ancient battlefields that are more complete. First, there is the first layer. The first layer is an ancient battlefield that contains boundless opportunity. However, the first layer was conquered by the Star Demon tribe long ago, and it is the Star Demon tribe's old lair. Even a great emperor would have scruples and not rush in easily. Over the years, Sanctuary Alliance has only searched through a small part of the territory in the first layer. Besides the first layer, there's another ancient battlefield, which is the Ancient Mystery Land that will only open every 5 million years. Ancient Mystery Land is much bigger than the first layer, and the opportunities within are countless. Every time it opens, it will attract many experts to flood in. Same goes for this time. Then the Master of Star Palace paused and overlooked. Then, among the 4 Hall Masters, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yin revealed passionate expressions, especially Hall Master Nie Yin. His eyes were bloodshot. Ancient Battlefield had a great attraction for great emperors, let alone Hall Master Nie Yin. If the first layer wasn't conquered by star demons, and was too dangerous, many Sir God would go into the first layer to try their luck without hesitation. Ancient Mystery Land didn't have any star demons, and it was much bigger than the first layer, and also had more opportunities. The 2 Sir Gods were of course crazy about it. However, in contrast to the 2 Hall Masters, Hall Master Yuan looked cold, and remained aloof about Ancient Mystery Land. He wasn't a Sir God, nor did he want to go to Ancient Mystery Land. As for Jian Wushuang, he looked equally unmoved. Ancient Mystery Land isn't as dangerous as the first layer. Hence, even Sir Gods can head in. You might get a lot of opportunities if you are lucky. So of the 4 of you, would anyone like to head into Ancient Mystery Land? The Master of Star Palace asked. I. Hall Master Nie Yin stood up without hesitation. I'd like to go too, Hall Master Gu Xian said. As for Hall Master Yuan and Jian Wushuang, neither spoke. To Hall Master Yuan, the Master of Star Palace didn't ask much, but he looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, among almighties in lineage of star, your power is second to mine. If you were to wander in Ancient Mystery Land, you would stand a higher possibility of getting an opportunity. Unless you are not interested in Ancient Mystery Land? I'm definitely interested, but not now. I have been fighting all this while and I am really tense. I want to relax, and it has been very long since I left my hometown. I plan to return to my hometown to take a look. As for Ancient Mystery Land, let's talk about it after I return from my hometown. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, You were first besieged by Soaring Heaven King Palace in the 8th layer, then Acheron Palace tried to assassinate you in Buddhist Demon Sea. Now you have been fighting with Soaring Heaven King Palace. You really should relax for a bit. The Master of Star Palace was understanding. Palace Master, you would go personally during this opening of Ancient Mystery Land, right? Hall Master Yuan suddenly said. The Master of Star Palace nodded. I will wander personally during the opening of Ancient Mystery Land, and I intend to explore the 7-star realm. 7-star realm? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It's named after 7-star. Could it be related to 7-star Black Sect? Hall Master Nie Yin and Hall Master Gu Xian were confused too. Things have reached this stage, so I shall not keep it a secret to all of you. Many years ago I received secret skill of 7-star, secret skill of Star Palace, in 7-star realm, and also a unique treasure. The Master of Star Palace smiled. Hall Master Nie Yun and Hall Master Gu Xian were surprised. 7-star realm was left behind by an ancient force called 7-star Black Sect. The opportunities contained were far beyond secret skill of 7-star. It's a pity that 7-star Black Sect set up a lot of prohibitions in 7-star realm, including many killing formations. I was already lucky enough to obtain secret skill of 7-star, and the unique treasure. All these years, although 7-star realm was open many times, and I went in to explore as well, I didn't find much. Until 5 million years ago, which was the previous opening of the ancient mystery land, I finally found a new opportunity in 7-star realm, and the opportunity was extraordinary. It's a pity that there's a prohibition outside the opportunity. Then, I didn't prepare much, so I didn't get my hands onto the opportunity, even until ancient mystery land closed. However, it's different this time. In the past 5 million years, I have been well prepared. If there's no accident, I should be able to resolve the prohibition and obtain the opportunity within. By then my overall power will definitely increase tremendously, and I might even reach the level of Great Emperor. The Master of Star Palace beamed with joy. Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian, and Hall Master Nie Yin looked surprised when they heard him. An opportunity greater than the secret skill of 7-star? If the Master of Star Palace got his hands on it, he stood a chance to become a Great Emperor? Great Emperor was one of the strongest people in eternal chaotic world. If there were to be another Great Emperor in lineage of Star, the overall power would definitely reach another brand new level. They might even overtake forces like Soaring Heaven King Palace. After all, although Soaring Heaven King Palace was strong, they were nothing in front of a Great Emperor. A Great Emperor could easily destroy the entire Soaring Heaven King Palace alone. 7-star realm is unusual. Palace Master has to be extremely cautious in his actions, Hall Master Yuan said. Don't worry. I know. The Master of Star Palace smiled, and he was obviously confident in his trip. Gu Xian, Nie Yin and I will be heading to ancient mystery land, while Jian Wushuang will be returning to his hometown. You will have to take care of lineage of Star alone for now, the Master of Star Palace said. Yes, Hall Master Yuan nodded. All right, we shall finish here. Gu Xian and Nie Yin, both of you get ready. 10 years later, head to ancient mystery land with me, the Master of Star Palace exhorted. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yin nodded simultaneously. Then the four of them left. In the cave dwelling, there was only the Master of Star Palace left. The Master of Star Palace then fixed his gaze in the distance, and he pondered in deep thought. Lineage of Star has too many enemies in eternal chaotic world, especially the possession of the secret skill of Star Palace. Countless experts and forces hankered for it. Even experts at the level of Great Emperor have thoughts about it. In addition to that, Jian Wushuang's sudden rise led to more people who have scruples about lineage of Star. In such a situation, only if I become a Great Emperor could lineage of Star be safe and sound. The opening of ancient mystery land this time is a turning point. I definitely have to get the opportunity in 7-star realm. Chapter 1781. Going back to take a look. In the lineage of Star, someone sent a message to Jian Wushuang the moment he came out of the Star Palace Master's cave. The person who sent him a message was King Gu Tong. Jian Wushuang, I heard that you have already gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list of the human territories. Congratulations, King Gu Tong said. Human territories, and the territories of special clans, were completely separated. For example, the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list of the human territories only had human experts in it. As for the experts of the special clans, they were not in it. Of course, the most important thing was that there were very few interactions between human territories and the territories of special clans. King Gu Tong was a 7-star royal ancient god, and was a person who was highly respected. Hence, he had some knowledge regarding the human territories. Naturally, He knew about the matter where Jian Wushuang had gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. King Gutong, what is the progress of the recovery of your abilities? Jian Wushuang replied with a laugh. Comparing abilities, his current abilities were stronger than those of King Gutong. Thus, he could naturally communicate with King Gutong on equal footing. I have more or less recovered. Moreover, after a short while, I will be going for 8-star ancient god, King Gutong said. Oh! Jian Wushuang's expression changed. An 8-star ancient god was equivalent to the level of a human emperor god. Furthermore, King Gutong was a royal ancient god. As soon as he made a breakthrough, his abilities would be out of the ordinary. Congratulations, Jian Wushuang said. Let's not talk about that now. I have contacted you because of a certain matter. King Gutong's voice turned serious. Since you are already one of the top experts of the human territories, you should know about the news of the ancient mystery land appearing soon, right? Yes, I just got to know it. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The ancient mystery land has a huge implication. To special clans like us, it is extremely attractive. Hence, some of the experts of my ancient god clan, as well as a few other top special clans, will be going there to travel. Moreover, back then, I told you that the space crack that leads to the battlefield that your hometown is at is in the ancient mystery land, King Gutong said. Jian Wushuang's eyes and expression turned grave immediately. When he had encountered King Gutong in the ancient god sanctuary in the past, he got to know that King Gutong had gone to the battlefield, that his hometown was at via the space crack of a special mystery land. King Gutong has said before that the space crack is extremely well hidden. Back then he found it by chance. Apart from him, no one else in the whole eternal chaotic world should know about the existence of that space crack. However, now that the ancient mystery land is about to open, there is no guarantee that the space crack will not be found by someone, Jian Wushuang murmured. The space crack was a huge hidden trouble. If someone were to find it and spread the news of it, a great number of experts would definitely rush to the battlefield that his hometown was at. By then it would be extremely troublesome. Jian Wushuang, I am merely telling you this so that you can take some precautions. However, you need not worry. After so many years, the ancient mystery land has opened so many times. In the end, I am the only person who has gone to the mystery land where your hometown is before. Even if other people wanted to go, they might not be so lucky as to come across it by chance, King Gutong said. All right, thank you very much for telling me this. Jian Wushuang thanked him and cut the transmission. In the Milky Way, Jian Wushuang heaved a light sigh of relief. I hope no one discovers the existence of the space crack when the ancient mystery land opens this time around. If they were to really find it by accident, a great number of experts will descend upon the battlefield in my hometown. By then, I would at most give away all the resources of the battlefield. It will be alright as long as I can keep the green fire world. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. He had made up his mind. After knowing that, Jian Wushuang did not delay any further, and he made preparations to return to his hometown right away. However, this time around, Jian Wushuang did not plan to return alone. In a star in the boundless Milky Way, the star was a huge, open space, and it was used especially for duels. At that moment, two figures were fighting one another in the open space. One of them was holding a giant axe with both his hands. Towering axe shadows were being unleashed in succession, and they were like tidewater, which came forth in a steady flow. The towering axe shadows filled the universe, and caused many disciples, who were observing the battle by the side, to exclaim in admiration. However, while facing the axe shadows which were heading toward him, the young man who held a sword in his hands unleashed many strokes one by one randomly. Although it looked simple and random, he managed to block all the axe shadows easily. Moreover, the sword essences had forced his opponent into an unusually miserable state. After just a short while, the disciple holding the giant axe was defeated. You have lost. Hishio's voice was cold, and he wore an indifferent smile. As for the disciple who he had defeated, he forced a smile. He had already given his all by unleashing all his tricks. However, he had still been defeated by Hishio easily. Too strong. Senior brother Hishio is really too strong. Among universe gods of the third heaven like us, senior brother, by Hao is considered one of the top 3. Similarly, he has the right to get into the universe god ranking list. However, in senior brother Hishio's hands, there is no room for him to struggle at all. When senior brother Hishio fought with him, he defeated him easily without even unleashing his unique skills and sword principles. These are the fighting capabilities of the top 10 on the universe god ranking list. No wonder countless hall masters valued him highly, and he was accepted as a registered disciple. Currently, no one among the disciples of the lineage of Star is more talented than senior brother Hishio. Registered disciple? Why have I heard that he is a lineal disciple? Many disciples in the Star were having a discussion. As for Hishio, he was not concerned with those comments, and he was about to leave. All of a sudden, a message was sent to him. Master is looking for me? Hishio's expression changed, and he headed to the Sword Star without hesitation. In a vast hall in the Sword Star, Jian Wushuang was sitting on the throne which was at the highest point. Although he was not emitting any aura, the invisible pressure that he exerted was still enough to make chaotic real gods shiver with fear. In the big hall, Qiu Yu, who had already become a real god, and had gotten herself established among the void real gods, was standing quietly. In no time, a shadow rushed over. Greetings to Master, Hishio bowed respectfully. You may get up. Jian Wushuang waved his hands, and Hishio got up right away. I heard that you got into the 9th position of the universe god ranking list 300 years ago. Jian Wushuang was looking down at his disciple. That's right, Hishio answered. However, that was 300 years ago. For the past 300 years, with the aid of the real god hall, my abilities have risen considerably. Hence, I am confident that I can get into the top 5 of the universe god ranking list now. Oh, not bad. Jian Wushuang praised him and nodded his head. With regards to his disciple Hishio, who he had accepted in the holy kingdom of real Wushu, Jian Wushuang was quite satisfied. In particular, for the past 7,000 years, ever since he had come to the lineage of Star, he had improved greatly. He was already the number 1 among the disciples of the lineage of Star. Moreover, he was ranked 9th on the universe god ranking list, and he had a great reputation in the eternal chaotic world. Chapter 1782 Descend, Snow Kingdom. Hearing Jian Wushuang's compliment, Hishio clenched his hand, but didn't get carried away. He knew his master's capability. In terms of the improvement that he had made over the years, he was naturally much better than an ordinary genius. However, if he were to compare himself with his master, he was far behind. They were not at the same level at all. Hishio had always treated his master as his goal. In the hall, Jian Wushuang looked down at Hishio and Qiu Yu. Today, I called the 2 of you over to inform you that I will make a trip back to my hometown for a while. As for how long, I have no idea. So I am giving you 2 a choice. If you are willing, you may head back with me, Jian Wushuang said. I am your maidservant. Wherever Mr. goes, I will naturally follow. Qiu Yu replied without hesitation. As for Hishio, he kept quiet for a while, then he nodded heavily. I am willing to follow Master anywhere. Then Jian Wushuang smiled. Actually, he could have returned to his hometown alone, but it was inevitable that he would run into some trouble along the way. Because of his identity, he naturally couldn't just take action hastily. Hence, it'd be best if 1 or 2 persons of the highest position followed him. Qiu Yu was his maidservant, and Hishio was his disciple. They could be said to be the 2 closest people to him. Jian Wushuang, of course, chose to bring the 2 of them. If so, let's depart now. On that day itself, Jian Wushuang left Star Land. He took his ancient spaceship and traveled to the direction of his hometown, Greenfire World. Back when Jian Wushuang had come to the 10 sanctuaries from Greenfire World, he had spent a total of a few thousand years there. Along the way, he had come across countless hardships, and he nearly died a few times. Then the threats and dangerous places along the way were almost non-existent before an expert with fighting power of an emperor god. The spaceship that Jian Wushuang was on constantly traveled at a terrifying speed. In less than 100 years' time, he arrived at Snow Kingdom. Snow Kingdom was the first holy kingdom that Jian Wushuang had stepped foot on after arriving in Eternal Chaotic World. The Holy Kingdom was much further from the 10 sanctuaries in the core of Eternal Chaotic World. It was located in a remote area. Hence, the experts weren't as many as in the Holy Kingdoms closer to the sanctuaries. The Holy Kingdoms closer to the 10 sanctuaries, such as Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and Jiogong Holy Kingdom, had dozens or even hundreds of real gods. However, there were only over 10 real gods in Holy Kingdom. As for the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, he was only an ordinary chaotic real god. There were 2 places in Snow Kingdom where they nurtured geniuses. One was Universe God Palace, and the other was Snow Dojo. At first, the 2 genius campsites in Snow Kingdom were evenly matched. However, there had been some changes in recent years. In a lofty palace in Snow Dojo, over 10 golden deacons of Snow Dojo gathered there, and they were standing in groups of 2 to 3 as they chattered. It could be seen that the faces of the golden deacons weren't great. Lost. Snow Dojo lost the ranking battle again. Like the previous term, all 3 ranking battles were won by Universe God Palace. Sigh. We were defeated so badly. I reckon the outside world sees Snow Dojo as a laughingstock now. No choice. We have lost 4 terms continuously, and we lost all 3 battles for 4 terms. It is a crushing defeat. We are both genius campsites of Snow Kingdom, but Universe God Palace suppressed us Snow Dojo so badly. All these years, the geniuses and experts that Snow Dojo raised were far behind Universe God Palace. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom is already unhappy with us. For the 10 ranking battle that took place in the past 100,000 years, Snow Dojo only won once, and it was won with the assistance of a genius that we invited at the last moment. The genius wasn't brought up by Snow Dojo. With such achievements, how do we face the monarch of the Snow Kingdom? The ranking battle between Snow Dojo and Universe God Palace only happened every once in 10,000 years. In the ranking battles for the past few years, Snow Dojo had suffered crushing defeat. Then, there was suddenly a figure that substantiated at the uppermost throne in the hall. The moment the person appeared, his real god aura spread across. Everyone in the hall immediately stood in humble reverence. Looking at the cold-looking man who was raging in anger, everyone kept quiet. Rubbish, a bunch of rubbish. Master of Silence Gloriette cursed angrily. 4 terms of ranking battle continuously. Every term has 3 battles. There are a total of 12 battles, and you lost all 12. You could have just won 1. With such battle achievement, how will we of Snow Dojo be worthy of all the resources provided by the monarch? Master of Silence Gloriette reprimanded, and the golden deacons below lowered their heads in embarrassment. Looking at how the golden deacons behaved, the Master of Silence Gloriette got even more furious. Listen up. The monarch already said that he will give us another chance. If Snow Dojo were to lose the next ranking battle again, it wouldn't be necessary for us to exist. The moment he said that, the golden deacons were shocked. Not necessary for us to exist. Does it mean that they are going to close down Snow Dojo? In the future, Snow Kingdom will only have Universe God Palace? How can it be? There's someone who exclaimed, "Why? Now you're panicking? What did you do then?" Master of Silence Gloriette glared at the golden deacons under him. Then he sighed. Forget it. The genius disciples in Snow Dojo are failing, and that has to do with me too. It's hard for me to absolve myself from the blame. Now, I won't force you, but let me clarify this. If you want Snow Dojo to continue to exist, please give your all for the next 10,000 years. Regardless of the method, you must nurture disciples who are more outstanding than Universe God Palace. Yes, the golden deacons nodded heavily. Very soon, everyone was dismissed. There was only Master of Silence Gloriette left on the throne alone, and he sighed. Then in Snow Kingdom, outside Snow Sacred World, there was an ancient spaceship that was moving over slowly. There were 3 figures in the spaceship cabin. Mister, according to star map that I have, in front should be where Snow Kingdom is located. Is Mister's hometown here? Qiuyu asked. No. Jian Wushuang shook his head. My hometown is in a small eternal world, but not this holy kingdom. The reason why I came here was to see some old friends. Jian Wushuang had stayed in Snow Sacred Land for a while. He had even joined Snow Dojo. and he still carried the identity of a disciple of Snow Dojo. Chapter 1783 Little Kid? After just a short while, an ancient spaceship descended in the snow-sacred land. After descending, Jian Wushuang's frightening soul power spread through the area right away, and almost the whole snow-sacred land was covered by it. At the same time, many higher-ups of the snow-sacred land became alarmed straight away. A great number of figures then flew over from all directions and came to the edge of the snow-sacred land. Among the people who had come, there were many experts from the Snow Dojo and Universe God Palace, where many geniuses were gathered. Moreover, there were some experts from the top clans in the Snow Sacred Land. In addition, quite a number of the Snow Kingdom's imperial family had come. At that moment, the large number of cultivators raised their heads, and they were looking at the ancient silver spaceship in front of them with a great amount of shock. Too frightening. This spaceship is really too frightening. What a frightening aura. I feel that if this spaceship were to collide with something, many seals of the snow-sacred land would probably be useless. Whose spaceship is this? Many cultivators present were gasping in admiration. They had gotten information that a strong spaceship had descended, hence they hurried over right away. Master, your abilities are powerful. Have you seen such a frightening spaceship before? Among the crowd of people, a golden deacon from the Snow Dojo questioned the Master of Silence Gloriette. I have never seen this before. The Master of Silence Gloriette shook his head, and he was extremely terrified. In actual fact, this silver spaceship had been obtained by Jian Wushuang from the Qiankuan Ring of the Soaring Heaven King Palaces, Sir God Qixing after killing him. To date, this was the best spaceship that Jian Wushuang had come into contact with, and it was worth no less than 10,000 doctrine gems. Not only was the spaceship's speed of traveling in the dark void shocking, it had powerful attack moves. Even if it were a simple collision, a chaotic real god would not be able to bear the impact. Hence, this spaceship could turn a mere snow-sacred land into pieces by crashing into it. At that moment, a big group of people was rushing over from afar, and the person in front was a golden-robed man who was 2 meters tall. It's the monarch. Even the monarch is alarmed. Many cultivators present revealed a respectful expression. When the monarch of the Snow Kingdom came to the crowd, he saw the ancient silver spaceship, which was floating in front right away. This spaceship, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, revealed a fearful expression. After that, he cupped one of his hands in the other before his chest, and his loud voice resounded across the universe. I am the monarch of the Snow Kingdom. I am not sure which friend of mine has come, but I request to have an audience with you. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom got off his high horse. After his words spread, 3 shadows floated down from the ancient spaceship. Among the 3 of them, the person standing to the left was a cold youth, who was carrying a sharp sword on his back. The eyes of the cold youth were penetrating. Although the aura that he emitted was extremely rare among the universe gods of the third heaven, no one in the snow-sacred land was too concerned about it. As for the person standing on the right, she was a woman with a beautiful, bewitching face. This woman had a humble expression, and she was standing to the side respectfully. As such, she should have just been a maid. However, this maid was a genuine real god. As for the person in the middle surrounded by these 2 people with one on the left and the other on the right, he was a crimson-robed man. Similarly, the crimson-robed youth was carrying a sword on his back. He had a gentle expression, and he wore an indifferent smile. He was different from the 2 people beside him, and he was not emitting any aura at all. There was no aura at all, and he was just like a normal person. However, if everyone were to close their eyes, they would absolutely not discover the existence of this crimson-robed man. Instead, they could only feel a vast constellation. It was as if he possessed everything in the universe. Everyone's eyes could not help but be fixed onto the crimson-robed man in the middle. It was the same for the monarch of the Snow Kingdom. Since the monarch of the Snow Kingdom was able to become the monarch of a holy kingdom, his abilities should have achieved the level of a chaotic real god. However, the instant he saw the crimson-robed man, he seemed to have seen an illusion. It was as if with a thought, the other party could kill him countless times. Such a feeling had only been felt by the monarch of the Snow Kingdom from one person before. Greetings to Lord. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom greeted respectfully right away. Greetings to Lord. Many cultivators from the Snow Sacred Land greeted the person who had come. Upon seeing everyone in front of him, Jian Wushuang laughed apathetically. However, all of a sudden, when he swept his eyes past everyone, he saw a person in the crowd. Oh, Master of Silence Gloriette? Long time no see. Jian Wushuang laughed. You are? The Master of Silence Gloriette opened his eyes widely and stared at Jian Wushuang unrelentingly. A figure then appeared in his mind at once. It was a little kid from 40,000 years ago. That little kid had looked for him for the map to go to the 10 sanctuaries. In no time, the two figures were superimposed onto one another. You are that little kid from back then? The Master of Silence Gloriette cried out in alarm. Little kid? Jian Wushuang stroked his nose, and he had a puzzled expression. How impudent! The monarch of the Snow Kingdom berated immediately. The Master of Silence Gloriette noticed that he had made an indiscreet remark, and he asked for forgiveness at once. It's all right. Jian Wushuang waved his hands, and he was not concerned at all. At that moment a figure floated over. She has come. Jian Wushuang placed both his hands behind him and looked over. The person who had come was a Taoist-robed married woman. As she walked over, every step contained special magic power. The moment she appeared at the void, many cultivators in that piece of universe became completely stunned, as if they had become idiots. After a long time, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom was the first person to react, and he shouted with respect right away. Lord Tian Yuan! Lord Tian Yuan! Everyone in the area was dumbfounded. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom was the master of a holy kingdom. In just a short amount of time, he had actually shouted Lord twice in succession? Jian Wushuang should be a super expert from outside the Snow Kingdom. Hence, it was very normal for the monarch of the Snow Kingdom to address him as Lord. What about Lord Tian Yuan? Didn't she come from inside the Snow Sacred Land? Tian Yuan? Tian Yuan Mystery Land? The Master of Silence Gloriette's eyes shrank abruptly. It is rumored that the cave of a lord is in the Tuan Yuan Mystery Land, and even the monarch needed to treat her with respect. Could she be this person in front? Without caring about the reactions of anyone in the area, after the Taoist-robed married woman appeared, she looked at Jian Wushuang immediately. You should be the little friend Jian Wushuang who has gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, right? The Taoist-robed married woman laughed gently and modestly. I am Jian Wushuang. Greetings to Sir God Tian Yuan. Jian Wushuang greeted. Little friend, you are being too modest. The Taoist-robed married woman said right away. Little friend has gotten into the 61st position of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. With such abilities, even if there were 3 of me, we would still be defeated with a flip of your palm. So how could I accept a greeting from you? Chapter 1784 Favor. The ordinary cultivators in Snow-Scared World had heard what the Taoist-robed woman said, and they didn't find it strange, but the monarch of the Snow Kingdom's heart skipped a beat. He knew the Taoist-robed woman's capability, but she had said that 3 of herself combined wouldn't be the crimson-robed man's match. Just how strong was the crimson-robed man? Almighty. He must be an almighty, and he must be a super expert among almighties. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom's facial expression changed. Little friend, let's find a place and continue to chat, the Taoist-robed woman said. Sure, Jian Wushuang nodded. Snow, lead the way. The Taoist-robed woman glanced at the monarch of the Snow Kingdom. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom immediately led the way in front, but didn't bother with his identity as the monarch of the Snow Kingdom just as Jian Wushuang and the others left. It immediately stirred a hubbub among the crowd. All the cultivators were discussing Jian Wushuang and the Taoist-robed woman's identities. In a lofty hall, Jian Wushuang sat side by side with the Taoist-robed woman. As for the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, He Xiao and Xiao Yu sat below. Wushuang, the last time I saw you, you were in my Tian Yuan Mystery Land. You were only a universe god then. In the blink of an eye, you already became the top existence in eternal chaotic world, and you are even listed in Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. I am really impressed, the Taoist-robed woman, Sir God Tian Yuan said. I am just lucky. Jian Wushuang smiled humbly. He roughly knew the Taoist-robed woman. Sir God Tian Yuan was a Sir God expert that was good at soul attacks. She wasn't famous in eternal chaotic world, but her soul attack was unusually fierce. It was said that she could even pose as a threat to the top Sir Gods. For instance, although Jian Wushuang's fighting power was strong, his soul strength wasn't strong. If Sir God Tian Yuan were to launch a full soul attack, it could put him into a threatened position too. Speaking of Tian Yuan Mystery Land, Sir God Tian Yuan never revealed yourself, and you didn't even know me, but you gave me an opportunity. This favor, I remember it by heart. If you need anything in the future, if it's within my capability, I'll never refuse to help, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang was very grateful for what Sir God Tian Yuan had done. Back in Snow Sacred World, Jian Wushuang had joined the ranking battle as a disciple from Snow Doho, and had won himself a chance to enter Tian Yuan Mystery Land for cultivation for 10 years. In the 10 years, not only did Jian Wushuang's soul power increase tremendously, most importantly, he had received an opportunity from Sir God Tian Yuan. Secret skill of Tian Yuan. Even though the secret skill of soul attack was nothing much to Jian Wushuang, he could even get any other stronger secret skill of soul attack easily. However, back when Jian Wushuang was still weak, the secret skill helped him a lot. There were even many times when Jian Wushuang had run into danger. He had resolved it through secret skill of Tian Yuan. The secret skill was extremely helpful when he had still been a universe god. Although Jian Wushuang didn't know who had provided him the secret skill in Tian Yuan Mystery Land, he remembered the favor in his heart. He was a person who attached importance to friendship and emotions. He was also a person who made a clear distinction between kindnesses and wrongs. He would definitely take revenge if there was resentment, and repay if there was a favor. Sir God Tian Yuan had done him a favor. Hence, when he passed by Snow Sacred Land, he wanted to express his gratitude to Sir God Tian Yuan personally. Haha, back then I noticed that you were an inverse cultivator and carried the bloodline of an ancient god. I happened to be friends with a 7-star ancient god, so I gave the secret skill of Tian Yuan to you to befriend you. I never thought you could reach such a level today, Sir God Tian Yuan smiled. A favor to an expert on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. I made a great investment. Without the opportunity that Sir God Tian Yuan provided me, I might not be able to achieve what I have today. Jian Wushuang smiled. The secret skill of Tian Yuan that Sir God Tian Yuan gave him helped him to head off disasters many times. Jian Wushuang repaid the favor, as was only right and proper. Oh yeah, little friend, you came to Snow Sacred Land today just for me? Sir God Tian Yuan asked. There are 2 purposes of my visit to Snow Sacred Land. Mainly to express my gratitude to Sir God Tian Yuan. Secondly, to meet an old friend, Jian Wushuang said. You have a friend in Snow Sacred Land? I wonder who it is, Sir God Tian Yuan asked. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom immediately looked. After he had found out about Jian Wushuang's power, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom had been thinking of ways to curry favor with him. However, with Jian Wushuang's identity, no matter how much effort he put into it, he couldn't be in contact with him. But if it was Jian Wushuang's friend, it would be different. No matter who your friend is, Snow Kingdom will try our best to be on friendly terms with him, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. I only have one friend in Snow Sacred Land. His name is Wuxia. 40,000 years ago, he was a golden deacon in Snow Dojo. I wonder how he has been, Jian Wushuang said. Wuxia. He had brought Jian Wushuang to Snow Sacred Land and joined Snow Dojo back then. On the way there, Wuxia had taken care of him, and he shared a good relationship with Jian Wushuang. Hold on. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom immediately sent a message to the information department of Snow Kingdom. Very soon there was a reply. Mr. Wuxia doesn't hold a position in Snow Dojo anymore, and he left Snow Sacred Land, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. Oh. Jian Wushuang looked at the monarch of the Snow Kingdom and realized that he didn't look too good. Humph. There was a cold humph and a divine might spread from Jian Wushuang's body and pressed onto the monarch of the Snow Kingdom. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom felt as though the sky was falling, and his internal organs were going to break apart. At the same time, he felt his body unable to endure it, and he knelt down. Snow, what's going on? Sir God Tianyuan looked at him. To Jian Wushuang and Sir God Tianyuan, who was high above the masses, a monarch of a holy kingdom was a nonentity. If they wanted to, they could have killed the monarch of the Snow Kingdom easily, and appointed another person to be the monarch. Something happened, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said anxiously. 30,000 years ago, Wu Tsong had a fight with a lineal disciple of mine. Then, Wu Tsong was forced to leave by the lineal disciple, and he was told to never enter Snow Sacred Land ever again. Oh, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Humph. Sir God Tianyuan looked at Snow coldly. Snow, your lineal disciples made an impressive show of power, huh? They relied on your might as a monarch and cornered Jian Wushuang's friend? Chapter 1785 The Snow Dojo's Disciple. I have already sent an order down to get people to capture that lineal son of mine, and he is all yours to handle, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. Jian Wushuang tapped the chair that he was sitting on with his hands. After remaining for some time he said, Currently, where is Wu Tsong? I have gotten news that he is currently in the Daiyu world. It is said that one of his good friends has gotten into some trouble over there, and he went over to help him, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. The Daiyu world? Jian Wushuang could not help but laugh. His hometown, the Greenfire world, was in the Daiyu world. Hence, he had stayed there for quite a period of time as well. As for Wu Tsong's good friend, Jian Wushuang knew that it was the Daiyu Palace Master. The Daiyu Palace Master is the overlord of the Daiyu world. Since he has come across some trouble, does that mean that some unforeseen events have occurred in the Daiyu world? Jian Wushuang murmured, and he spoke after that. I will go to the Daiyu world right away. As for the lineage son under you, I will let Wu Tsong handle him after he comes back. Understood. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom nodded his head immediately. All right. I saw the Master of Silence Gloriette of the Snow Dojo just now. Back then, when I set off from the Snow Kingdom to the 10 sanctuaries, he was the one who gave me the map. During that time, I was indeed a little kid to him. Hence, he did not offend me just now when we were outside. As such, you must not make trouble for him. As for the Snow Dojo, I was once a disciple of the Snow Dojo. Thus, you should also treat its disciples well, Jian Wushuang said. Understood. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom nodded his head again. After having a simple chat, Jian Wushuang did not continue, and he left at once. Lord, please have a safe trip. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom led many cultivators of the Snow Sacred Land to send Jian Wushuang off to his spaceship. After Jian Wushuang left, Snow, you have heard little friend Jian Wushuang's instructions. Therefore, you should think over how you are going to do things. If you really have no idea, you should step down from your position of monarch. After Sir God Tianyuan spoke, she returned to the Tianyuan Mystery Land immediately. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom had broken out in a cold sweat while standing in his position. After Sir God Tianxian had left as well, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom heaved a sigh of relief. After that, he turned his head and looked at the large number of cultivators. In the end, his attention was focused on one person, Master of Silence Gloriette. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. Monarch. The Master of Silence Gloriette said right away. Quite a number of the surrounding people looked at the Master of Silence Gloriette with sympathy and ridicule. They had seen with their own eyes that the Master of Silence Gloriette had offended the Lord moments ago. What was the position of that Lord? Even the monarch of the Snow Kingdom trembled with fear when he saw him, and the Master of Silence Gloriette had actually called him little kid in front of so many people? Wasn't he courting death? Although it was unintentional, there was no guarantee that the other party would not be concerned. Let's look. Let's look at how the monarch will punish him. After all, the Master of Silence Gloriette has a high position. Hence, the monarch will probably not kill him. However, there will definitely be a punishment. Quite a number of people were thinking about that. The Master of Silence Gloriette was also extremely fearful. However, all of a sudden, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, who had been staring at him, revealed a smile. Master of Silence Gloriette, your snow dojo has indeed not disappointed me. Great going. What? The Master of Silence Gloriette was stunned. The surrounding people also looked at the monarch of the Snow Kingdom with surprise. Shouldn't the monarch of the Snow Kingdom be enraged and punish the Master of Silence Gloriette straight away? Why did he commend the Snow Dojo instead? Why? Don't you understand yet? The monarch of the Snow Kingdom laughed. You know that lord from just now, right? Of course I do. The Master of Silence Gloriette nodded his head. It was more than 40,000 years ago. To date, it should have been 50,000 years already. Back then, he was only a universe god, and he had once represented the Snow Dojo to take part in that ranking competition. Due to his participation, the Snow Dojo was victorious in the ranking competition. You're wrong about that. The monarch of the Snow Kingdom laughed heartily. That lord is a super existence who is exceptionally talented, and his power has completely exceeded your expectations. Moreover, such a super expert was actually once a disciple of your Snow Dojo? Just now, he also told me personally to treat the Snow Dojo well. This means that his impression of the Snow Dojo is not too bad. How honored do you think you are? The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. The lord from before actually came from the Snow Dojo. Such an earth-shaking super expert had actually been born from the Snow Dojo. I have already made up my mind. From today now, I will give the Snow Dojo twice the amount of resources. As for the upcoming ranking competition, you just need to do your best. The end result is not important, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom said. What? Everyone was shocked again, especially the people from the Universe God Palace. They had finally suppressed the Snow Dojo to the point that even the monarch of the Snow Kingdom wanted to close down the Snow Dojo. However, at that point, just because of the arrival of an expert who was slightly related to the Snow Dojo, not only did the monarch of the Snow Kingdom stop thinking about getting rid of the Snow Dojo, he had also decided to give them twice the amount of resources. This was twice the amount of resources. Even when their Universe God Palace had won the ranking competition in succession for the past few years, the monarch of the Snow Kingdom had never been so generous. My Snow Dojo is about to change for the better. The Master of Silence Gloriette was extremely delighted. It was the same for the Golden Deacons of the Snow Dojo, who were at the back. They had originally thought that it was the end of the line for the dojo. However, in the end, due to the arrival of Jian Wushuang, the Snow Dojo had achieved its peak instantly. Moreover, its position in the mind of the monarch of the Snow Kingdom had risen higher than never before. It was all because of Jian Wushuang. In the dark void, the silver spaceship that Jian Wushuang and the two other people were riding was moving at a shocking speed continuously. As it was only from the Snow Sacred Land to the Dayu world, the distance was not too far. With the spaceship's speed, they reached the Dayu world in just a few months' time. This time around, Jian Wushuang did not attract so much attention by riding the spaceship into the Dayu world. Instead, he stopped the spaceship outside the Dayu world. Both of you shall wait for me here. I will be going in to greet some of my old friends, Jian Wushuang said. Understood. He Xiao and Qiu Yu nodded their heads with respect. After that, Jian Wushuang's body turned vague, and he disappeared from the spaceship. The Dayu world was a normal region under the Snow Kingdom. As a normal region, their experts were normally universe gods of the third heaven. Back then, when Jian Wushuang had been traveling in the Dayu world, everything in the Dayu world had been controlled by the Dayu Palace Master, a universe god of the third heaven. Moreover, he was the only universe god of the third heaven in the whole region. Hence, he was the most powerful person. Back then, to Jian Wushuang, the Dayu Palace Master had been considered a super existence which was impossible to surpass. However, at that time, forget about a mere universe god of the third heaven. Even if it were real gods, Jian Wushuang had already killed an innumerous number of them. After entering the Dayu world, Jian Wushuang knew that some unforeseen events had indeed occurred in the Dayu world. Chapter 1786. Tianzhu City and Dayu Palace in Dayu World. Jian Wushuang stopped in the void above a lofty hall in Dayu Palace. In the void, Jian Wushuang could clearly feel the auras in the hall below, and there were quite a number of them that he was familiar with. There are quite a lot of old friends here. Jian Wushuang smiled, and he flew towards the hall. In the hall, many universe gods had gathered. Among the universe gods, the master of Dayu Palace and Wu Tsang were leaders. Then, they were followed by experts from Scarlet Island, Golden Sun Sect and Holy Prefecture. In Dayu World, one monarch and 3 overlords, the representatives of 4 major forces were gathered. Palace Master, there are news saying Tianju City's troops already departed. They will arrive in 6 hours' time at most. A white-dressed universe god reported politely. 6 hours. The master of Dayu Palace grew distressed. The universe gods at the scene didn't look good either. I never expected Tianju City to grow so fast, the master of Scarlet Island said. D***m in Tianju City. They didn't even give us a chance, the master of Golden Sun Sect said. Tianju City has just risen, and they wanted to punish one as an example to others. Dayu World seemed to be the one. One of the masters from Holy Prefecture said. Humph, Tianju City wants the forces in Dayu World to yield to them. It won't be that easy. A universe god in the second heaven from Dayu Palace humphed. The universe gods higher-ups in Dayu World united as one against the same enemy. Just then, what made everyone so furious? A calm voice spread, and a crimson-robed figure substantiated in the middle of the hall. The universe gods were stunned when they saw the crimson-robed figure. They were having a discussion, and they had set up prohibitions surrounding the hall. But this person had barged in quietly. You are. The master of Scarlet Island was the first who stood up and looked at the incomer. Jian Wushuang, it's you. Jian Wushuang. The master of Dayu Palace and Wu Tsang looked at him too. Haha, master of Scarlet Island, master of Dayu Palace, brother Wu Tsang, long time no see. How have you been? Jian Wushuang let out a hearty laugh. It's really you. The master of Dayu Palace and Wu Tsang walked down. Jian Wushuang, long time no see. The master of Scarlet Island was the most surprised one. After all, Jian Wushuang was from Scarlet Island, and he carried the secret skill of Scarlet Kingdom. He belonged to lineage of Scarlet. As for the master of Golden Sun Sect, and the few masters of Holy Prefectures, they didn't look quite good. Jian Wushuang shared resentment with Golden Sun Sect and Holy Prefecture, especially Golden Sun Sect, as Jian Wushuang killed the master of Golden Sun Sect's brother. Back then, the master of Golden Sun Sect had wanted to kill Jian Wushuang, but in the end, they had had no choice but to get the master of Dayu Palace involved and settled the resentment between them. As they met again, his emotions were naturally complicated. After a brief exchange of conventional greetings, Jian Wushuang found a seat and sat down casually. Listening to your conversation earlier, Dayu World seems to be in trouble? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Yeah, we ran into some trouble. The master of Dayu Palace nodded faintly and looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, your aura is distinguished. I can't see through it at all. I believe you must have improved tremendously, right? I did. Jian Wushuang nodded. To what level exactly? Have you passed your 3rd inverse cultivation test? The master of Dayu Palace asked closely. Yes, I have already passed it, Jian Wushuang answered. That's great. The master of Dayu Palace was thrilled, and the universe gods in the hall beamed with joy. Even the master of Golden Sun Sect, and the few masters of Holy Prefecture, who harbored grudges against Jian Wushuang, looked happy too. Jian Wushuang, as you are a cultivator of Dayu World as well, I will be frank with you. About 1,000 years ago, there was a force that rose abruptly near Dayu World. The force called themselves Tianju City. The master of Dayu Palace told him the ins and outs of the story. Then Jian Wushuang understood. The danger that Dayu World was facing derived from Tianju City. Not long ago, Tianju City had spread news to all forces and sects in Dayu World, and over 10 surrounding worlds to yield to them. All worlds naturally wouldn't agree. Hence, Tianju City wanted to take action, and the first was against Dayu World. Then the city was under siege. 6 hours later, the troops from Tianju City would arrive. Hence, the master of Dayu Palace had gathered the 3 overlords in Dayu World to unite to fight against Tianju City. Tianju City is extremely powerful. It is said that they have more than 10 universe gods in the third heaven, and they have more than 1,000 universe gods. Against a powerful force like them, with our strength in DU world alone, we wouldn't be evenly matched. But now that Jian Wushuang has returned, it is a different story. The master of DU Palace beamed with joy. Jian Wushuang, you are an inverse cultivator. You should be extremely strong compared to those of the same level. As you have passed your third inverse cultivation test, there shouldn't be any universe gods who are your match. If you were to partake in the battle, we DU world might be able to win the battle against Tianju City. Yes. Wu Tsang, master of Scarlet Island, and the others nodded simultaneously. Then Jian Wushuang smiled. I was from DU world. As DU world is in trouble, I naturally couldn't just stand and watch. Everyone heard that Jian Wushuang had agreed to help, and they instantly saw a sliver of hope. 6 hours later, the army from Tianju City really came. In the void outside DU Palace, Tianju City's army gathered. There were at least 4,000 people. Among the 4,000 people, the weakest aura was Universe God in the first heaven. A total of 4,000 Universe Gods. There were over 200 Universe Gods in the second heaven, and over 30 Universe Gods in the third heaven. Looking at the sight, the Universe Gods in DU world who saw a string of hope earlier, their faces instantly grew pale as a sheet, with no color in their cheeks. How is it possible? How could it be? The master of DU Palace muttered. According to the information, it isn't as such? The others were dumbfounded too. The information that they had obtained about Tianju City previously had said that they had over 1,000 universe gods, and there had less than 10 universe gods in the third heaven. But in the end, Tianju City's power was a few times greater than what they knew. A few times. If their fighting power was as the information they obtained had said, they might have stood a chance because of Jian Wushuang's return. But then, no hope at all. Although Jian Wushuang has returned, no matter how strong he is, he could at most fight with 10 universe gods in the third heaven alone. The rest of Tianju City's power could still easily massacre all the experts in DU world. Chapter 1787. Mister, we're finished, we're really finished. Many universe gods in the DU world howled in grief. Just then, a figure appeared out of thin air before the great army of the Tianju City. It was a black-armored middle-aged man who looked a bit arrogant. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with coldness. After he looked at the universe gods of the DU world, he wore a smile that was filled with ridicule. Upon seeing the arrogant middle-aged man, the universe gods of the DU world gave up all their hope completely. A real god? They actually had a real god? The DU Palace Master gave a bitter smile. Palace Master, shall we surrender? A master from the Holy Prefecture could not help but say, surrender. Upon hearing that, the expressions of the universe gods present changed. With such a great difference in abilities, they would definitely die if they were to continue going against them. Hence, surrendering was indeed a good idea. It's useless. The DU Palace Master forced a smile and shook his head. If the DU world had surrendered right away at the start, the Tianju City might still accept us. However, now the full force of the Tianju City is here, and even a real god expert has shown himself. As such, what they want now is no longer the DU world surrendering. Instead, they want to destroy the DU world completely and frighten the other regions. Hence, even if we were to surrender now, they would definitely not accept it. Then what can we do? The universe gods in the DU world started to feel anxious. What else can we do? The DU Palace Master said with grief. All of you, as soon as the Tianju City makes a move later on, please escape straight away. I hope that as many of you as possible can escape. We shall not resist them fearlessly as it would be useless. Everyone became silent. Brother Wu Tsang, for you to come this time around, I am extremely grateful to you. If we really fight later on, please leave quickly as well, the DU Palace Master said. Dayu. Wu Tsang sighed lightly. I'm sorry that I'm unable to help you in this battle. The DU Palace Master waved his hands, and did not have any intention of blaming Wu Tsang. After that he looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, you should not have returned during this period of time. Deyu Palace Master. The great battle has yet to begin. Thus you should not be so pessimistic. What if there are some other unforeseen events? Jian Wushuang laughed. I really admire you for still being able to joke around at this period of time. The Deyu Palace Master was in sorrow. However, at that moment Palace Master look? An alarmed cry could be heard abruptly. The Deyu Palace Master, Wu Tsong, and the large number of universe gods present looked over immediately. With that, all their eyes shrank fiercely. From the void far away, two figures were speeding over. Although they had not reached them yet, their two frightening auras had already spread across the area. Among the two auras, one was that of a universe god of the third heaven while the other was that of a real god expert. This is... The Deyu Palace Master was puzzled. No one else understood either. However, the two figures had already appeared in front of the great army of the Tianju city. The eyes of the cold youth who was carrying a sword in his hand and emitting the aura of a universe god of the third heaven were ice cold. As he passed by the great army of the Tianju city, his ice-cold voice resounded across the universe. Tianju city, leave immediately. If not, die. The voice was like the fury of a thunderbolt, and it did not dissipate even after a long time. Upon hearing the voice, the large number of universe gods of the Deyu world became extremely dumbfounded. Who are they? The Deyu Palace Master opened his eyes wide. From the looks of it, the other party obviously wanted to force the Tianju city to retreat. However, he had never seen those two people before. Hence, it was impossible for him to have friendly relations with them. Why would they help him for no reason? As for the large number of universe gods in the Tianju city, all of them were enraged. The leader of the Tianju city, the black-armored middle-aged man, became furious right away. Where did this reckless idiot who dared to be impudent in front of my Tianju city's great army come from? Men, kill him. Tens of universe gods of the third heaven of the Tianju city attacked with lightning speed at once. Since you are unwilling to retreat, you shall die. A voice that was filled with shocking murderous intent could be heard from the cold youth. At the next moment, his sword came out of its scabbard, and he attacked with his sword immediately. As for the beautiful woman beside him, who had already reached the level of a real god, she did not move. A great battle burst forth instantly. Swish! A crimson sword shadow which was filled with an infinite amount of murderous intent, and looked as if it came from the abysmal hell attacked. The sword light flew wantonly, and swept past the bodies of 6 universe gods of the third heavens instantly. With that 6 bodies fell at the same time. After that the cold youth unleashed another stroke. With the same stroke, a few icy cold bodies fell again. With one face-off, the tens of universe gods of the third heaven, which had headed for the cold youth, were killed. How is this possible? He is so powerful. Such a scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. The leader of the Tianju city flew into a rage at once. Die! Boom! The aura of a real god was unleashed. The leader of the Tianju city took action personally, and he headed for the cold youth. With a real god coming personally, everyone in the Deyu world thought that the cold youth would retreat, and the beautiful woman behind him, who was also a real god, would fight. However, in actual fact, the cold youth did not even retreat by a half a step. He still held his sword, and continued to fight with the leader of the Tianju city alone. The end results were, everyone present became silent. The whole universe became deathly silent. It was extremely silent. Dead. A real god was actually killed by a universe god on the spot. How is this possible? If not for them seeing it with their own eyes, almost no one present would think that it was true. After killing the leader of the Tianju city, the cold youth spoke again. Scram. Although it was just one word, it contained an enormous amount of prestige. The large number of universe gods from the Tianju city had already been shocked to the point that they had lost their courage. As such, they escaped in all directions at once. In just an instant, the great army of the Tianju city, which was originally vast and mighty, escaped, and not even a single one of them was left. The Deyu world's danger this time around was taken care of easily, just like that. What exactly is going on? The large number of universe gods of the Diyu world had not even reacted yet. No idea. The Diyu Palace Master also nodded his head repeatedly. To date, he still did not know who those two experts were and why they helped his Diyu world. He only knew that among the two experts, only one of them was sent out. Moreover, it was a universe god. However, even with that, he threw the great army of the Tianju city, which had caused all the powerhouses in the Diyu world to give up all hope into chaos. Killing a real god with the power of a universe god. This is a real super expert. In the whole Snow Kingdom, no, in the whole eternal chaotic world, he is definitely a top genius. Such a super expert has actually come to our Diyu world? The Diyu Palace Master murmured. At the next moment he reacted. Brother Wuxia, Jian Wushuang and everyone present, quick. Follow me to greet those two people together. The Diyu Palace Master said immediately. Everyone present had planned to go and greet them. Only Jian Wushuang laughed instead. No need. They will come here themselves. As expected, the two experts who had defeated the great army of the Tianju city were already flying toward them, and in an instant, they appeared in front of them. Greetings to two lords from Diyu, as well as the large number of universe gods of the Diyu world. Thank you so much for helping my Diyu world to resolve our danger this time around. My Diyu world is extremely grateful to the two of you, the Diyu Palace Master said. At the same time he, as well as everyone else beside him, bowed to the people who had come with respect. Everyone bowed to greet them. Only Jian Wushuang remained standing indifferently. Both his hands were also behind his back, and he had no intention of greeting them. Jian Wushuang, please greet them quickly. The Diyu Palace Master lowered his voice and shouted. Jian Wushuang, Wuxia and the Scarlet Island Master urged as well. Greet them. Jian Wushuang stroked his own nose, and he had a puzzled expression. At that moment, the two experts who had defeated the great army of the Tianju city and caused the Diyu Palace Master, Wuxia, and the rest of the people to revere them lowered their heads at the same time. Greetings to Master from your disciple. Greetings to Mr. from your maid. They did not conceal their voices at all, and their voices resounded across the quiet void. The Diyu Palace Master, Wuxia and the rest of the people who were originally urging Jian Wushuang to greet them immediately were all dumbfounded. Chapter 1788 Disciple, Maidservant. Master, Mr. The universe gods in Diyu world were confused. They wondered who were they greeting. Just as they looked in the direction they bowed at, they saw Jian Wushuang who stood there proudly. They were astonished by the sight. The two of them were bowing at Jian Wushuang. It's impossible. Everyone found it unbelievable. Until Jian Wushuang waved, get up. The two of them immediately got up and stood behind Jian Wushuang politely. Looking at the sight, no matter how stupid a person was, they should be able to tell that the person that the two of them bowed to humbly was Jian Wushuang. Wushuang, my friend, what's going on? The master of Diyu Palace asked with his eyes wide. He even changed the way he called Jian Wushuang immediately. He had called Jian Wushuang by his name earlier, and he had talked to Jian Wushuang on equal terms. However, in his voice then, there was reverence and respect. Everyone else looked at Jian Wushuang simultaneously. They were all confused and hoped that Jian Wushuang would clarify. Let me introduce to you. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He first pointed at the cold-looking young man carrying a sword. It was the cold-looking young man who had killed many universe gods in the third heaven from Tianju City alone. He also killed the leader of Tianju City, a real god expert. He is Hixio, he's my disciple, Jian Wushuang said casually. Hixio smiled and nodded at everyone in respect. He could tell that his master was friends with the surrounding people. His master who was a superb existence who spoke modestly when he talked to the universe gods. He naturally didn't dare to act haughtily. He's your disciple? The master of Diyu Palace gulped. Wushuang, my friend, you are so lucky. You found such a monstrous lineal disciple. Wuxia complimented with envy. Hixio immediately corrected when he heard that. You misunderstood. I am only master's registered disciple. As for lineal disciple, I'm afraid I do not qualify with my current ability. The universe gods from Diyu world gawked at his correction. Such an unbelievable genius. Even in the core of the 10 sanctuaries in eternal chaotic world, they reckoned he would be a super genius, as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. But he was only Jian Wushuang's registered disciple? He didn't even qualify to be his lineal disciple? Is this a joke? Wushuang, my friend, this is. The master of Diyu Palace looked at Qiuyu by the side. She is Qiuyu. She's my maidservant, Jian Wushuang said. Maidservant? The universe gods felt their throats grow dry. He Xiao, a universe god who had killed a real god, and was definitely a super genius in their eyes, was only Jian Wushuang's registered disciple. The real god expert who looked slightly stronger than the master of Tianzhu City, was only Jian Wushuang's maidservant? Then Jian Wushuang, who was He Xiao's master and Qiuyu's mister, just how strong was he? Everyone couldn't help but look at Jian Wushuang. Their gazes were different from before. Just then swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. There were suddenly 5 figures that sped over from afar. Among the 5 figures, there were 4 universe gods in the 3rd heaven, and the one leading was a woman in red, a real god. The 5 figures stopped in the void in front of Jian Wushuang, and they bowed simultaneously. I am Fenyu under the monarch of Snow Kingdom, greetings. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang glanced at the woman in red. He could get down from his high horse before the master of Diyu Palace, Wu Tsang, the master of Scarlet Kingdom, because of their relationship before. However, to Fenyu, who he didn't share any relationship with, he behaved differently. The woman in red, Fenyu, took a deep breath and replied politely, Mister, we came under the order of the monarch. We rushed over from the nearby territory at our fastest speed possible. The monarch knows that Diyu World shared a close relationship with you, and he heard of the Tianzhu City's plan to come to attack. He was worried that you couldn't make it in time to Diyu World, so he sent us to dismiss Tianzhu City, but he never expected Mister to arrive before us. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. He could tell that the monarch of Snow Kingdom cared about his matter a lot. Mister, although Tianzhu City's troop has retreated, they offended you, and they shall not be forgiven. The monarch has already sent 3 real gods with the 10th and 11th troops to destroy Tianzhu City, entirely within 10 days. They will exterminate all higher-ups, Fenyu reported. You can take care of that. Jian Wushuang waved. Yes. Fenyu nodded politely. The universe gods in Diyu World saw the sight, and they were dumbfounded. Real god Fenyu? The 2nd military commander of Snow Kingdom? Wu Tsang looked at Fenyu, and he looked surprised. Snow Kingdom was a huge holy kingdom, and they ruled countless worlds. The monarch of Snow Kingdom mainly controlled over the holy kingdom, and he naturally required a huge troop. It was said that Snow Kingdom had 20 military troops in total, and every troop had 10,000 soldiers. All the soldiers were made of universe gods. The 20 military troops were under the command of 4 commanders. In terms of position, even Master of Silence Gloriette from Snow Dojo was slightly below them. Real god Fenyu was one of the 4 commanders. She was truly a big figure, and such a big figure was behaving so politely before Jian Wushuang. Then, real god Fenyu looked at Wu Tsang, and she flashed a gentle smile. You must be Mr. Wu Tsang, right? Wu Tsang, mister? Wu Tsang was shocked. He was only a universe god in the 3rd heaven. Even when he was a golden deacon in Snow Dojo, he definitely wasn't in the eyes of real god Fenyu. But then, not only had real god Fenyu called him by his name, she had referred him as Mister? Mister? It was an extremely respectful title. Normally, they would only refer to someone stronger than themselves as Mister, or at least someone who was on equal level. But then, I am, Wu Tsang nodded. According to the monarch's order, from today on, Mr. Wu Tsang will be Snow Kingdom's guest. Your position is equal to Master of Silence Gloriette from Snow Dojo. Not only ago, there was a lineal disciple of his who offended Mr. Wu Tsang. The lineal disciple was captured and imprisoned in the prison of Snow Sacred Land. As for his punishment, whether to keep him alive or dead will be decided by Mr. Wu Tsang, Fenyu said with a smile. Wu Tsang was dumbfounded by her comment. He had been kicked out from Snow Sacred Land because he had offended the lineal disciple, and he was told to not step foot there anymore. But then the change was too drastic. Of course, he knew clearly that, with him alone, or even 10 of him combined, he wouldn't have such power. There was only one person possibly with such power at the scene. Wuxia couldn't help but look at the person. This person was of course Jian Wuxia. Chapter 1789 The Frightening Spacetime Storm. Lord, the monarch wanted me to give you this token. Fun Yu handed a token to Jian Wuxia with respect. This is the token to control the 10th Legion. After the 10th Legion has completely destroyed the Tianzhu city, they will be stationed near the Dayu world throughout the year. Hence, by using this token, Lord can mobilize the 10th Legion to do anything. Of course, Lord's abilities are monstrous. In Lord's hands, the 10th Legion will probably be destroyed with a flip of a palm. However, it is impossible for Lord to do everything himself. With the 10th Legion showing up on your behalf in the Snow Kingdom, there will be less trouble for you. In addition, you can also give this token to your loved ones or friends. Similarly, they can mobilize the 10th Legion as well. Even if you were to leave, with the 10th Legion at hand, no one would dare to disrespect your loved ones and friends. For example, it will be impossible for today's matter, where the great army of the Tianzhu city fought all their way here, to happen again. Understood. Help me to thank the monarch of the Snow Kingdom for his good intentions, by saying that I will accept this token. Jian Wuxia nodded his head and said. Seeing that Jian Wuxia had accepted the token, Fun Yu became delighted at once. As for Jian Wuxia, he turned his head to look at a person beside him. Scarlet Island Master. Lo Lord. The Scarlet Island Master said with respect immediately. Jian Wuxia forced a smile. I was born in the Scarlet Island, and I am also someone from the bloodline of Scarlet. Hence, you do not need to be so respectful to me. Understood. The Scarlet Island Master nodded his head. However, his expression was still respectful like before. With regards to that, Jian Wuxia stopped forcing him. I am thankful to the Scarlet Island for protecting me back then when I came out from my hometown and was traveling in the Dayu world. Therefore, I shall give you this token now. Jian Wuxia tossed the token to the Scarlet Island Master. Such a scene caused the eyes of quite a number of the surrounding universe gods to turn red. It should be known that the token was the token to control the 10th Legion. With the token on hand, one would be able to mobilize the whole 10th Legion. That was 10,000 universe gods. Moreover, they were elites. In addition, they were proficient in group attacks, and their formations as well as fighting capabilities were extremely powerful. For example, the 10th Legion could destroy a powerhouse like the Tianzhu city easily. By being able to control such a powerful force, the power that the Scarlet Island Master possessed surpassed that of the Tianzhu city when it was at its peak instantly. In the future, even if it were the Dayu Palace Master, who was the most powerful person in the Dayu world, he would also need to lower his head when facing the Scarlet Island. Alright, during this period of time, did Big Brother Fiery King return to the Scarlet Island at all? Jian Wuxia asked. He had returned before. However, that was 20,000 years ago. Moreover, he only stayed for a short period of time. After leaving some resources for the Scarlet Island, he left and continued to travel. The Scarlet Island Master said at once. Oh! Jian Wuxia raised his eyebrows and looked at the surrounding people right away. Everyone, I am in a rush to return to my hometown to take a look. Hence, I cannot accompany all of you any longer. Lord, please have a safe trip. Fun Yu saluted immediately and sent him off. The Dayu Palace Master, Wuxia, the Scarlet Island Master, and the rest of the people looked on with respect as Jian Wuxia and his people left. After Jian Wuxia and his people were far away, the large number of universe gods present heaved a sigh of relief. Those universe gods were looking at each other, and they only felt that they were still in their dreams. Lord Fun Yu, Wuxia spoke with respect carefully. Mr. Wuxia, you do not need to be so modest. You can just call me by my name. Otherwise, you can also call me Military Commander. Fun Yu laughed gently. He knew that Wuxia, as well as quite a number of people present, were on good terms with the Lord from before. Although they were not really very close to one another where they were sworn friends, As long as they were on good terms, they were worthy of being treated earnestly by the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, let alone him. Military commander. Wuxia took a deep breath and asked, "What exactly is Jian Wushuang's current identity? Why are you so respectful of him? Moreover, from the looks of it, even the monarch is paying a lot of attention to him." Paying attention to him? Fun Yu laughed. "Mr. Wuxia, you're wrong. The monarch is not paying attention to Lord Jian Wushuang. Instead, he is respecting him." Respecting him? Wuxia was stunned. The Diyu Palace master and his group of people around the area looked over with astonishment. What kind of existence was the monarch of the Snow Kingdom? Even with that, he still revered Jian Wushuang? "Let me tell all of you the truth. The Lord just now has already achieved the level of an almighty," Fun Yu said earnestly. Almighty? Everyone was puzzled. However, Wuxia and the Diyu Palace master were dumbfounded. The two of them had a lot of experience, and they knew what an almighty meant. It was a supreme existence of the eternal chaotic world. For such a super existence, a real god would normally kneel down if he were to see them. Even if it were a chaotic real god like the monarch of the Snow Kingdom, he was merely an ant to an almighty. No wonder even the monarch of the Snow Kingdom would be so fearful and respectful of him. So Jian Wushuang has already become an almighty? In just tens of thousands of years, the little kid from back then has actually grown to such a level. Wuxia and the Diyu Palace master were filled with disbelief. After leaving the Diyu Palace, Jian Wushuang rode the spaceship to his hometown, the Green Fire World, immediately. In the void, which was in complete darkness, an ancient spaceship was moving hastily. Inside the spaceship's cabin. "I'm almost there. I'm almost home." Jian Wushuang clenched both his fists and his expression was obviously filled with excitement. This caused He Xiao and Qiu Yu, who were at the side, to be extremely surprised. It was their first time seeing Jian Wushuang so excited. On normal days, Jian Wushuang had never been so excited before, even when he had made a huge breakthrough or achieved some kind of opportunity. They were totally unable to understand Jian Wushuang's current feelings. The Green Fire World was his hometown. It was his roots. That place was the very center of his life. No matter how high his abilities rose to, or what place he would go to in the future, all of them would always be incomparable to the Green Fire World. Moreover, he had left his own hometown for far too long. It was reckoned to be more than 50,000 years. After so many years, Jian Wushuang also had no idea how his hometown was doing. He had no idea how his parents, his brothers, his loved ones and good friends were doing. "Just a while more, and I will be able to return to see all of you," Jian Wushuang murmured as he recalled the memories in his head. In no time, Jian Wushuang came before the vast space-time storm which his hometown, the Green Fire World, was at. In the space-time, which was already distorted completely, there was a frightening storm rolling about madly. Back then when Jian Wushuang had come out of the Green Fire World, he had been shocked when he saw the space-time storm, as he absolutely could not see its edge at all. However, at that time, "I am actually unable to see the edge already. It's too big. This space-time storm is too big. How much distance has it covered? Moreover, how strong is the power it contains?" Jian Wushuang was filled with shock, and his heart twitched continuously. At that moment, he was a top existence in the eternal chaotic world, and his name was on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, when he saw the space-time storm, he still could not help but have jitters. Chapter 1790 Home. Even Jian Wushuang was astonished, let alone He Xiao and Qiu Yu. "Master, what are we doing here in front of the space-time storm?" He Xiao couldn't help but ask. "My hometown is in the space-time storm," Jian Wushuang said. "What?" He Xiao and Qiu Yu were shocked. In such a terrifying space-time storm, would there be a world where human resided in? How was it possible? Disciple Qiu Yu. Jian Wushuang looked at them. "Follow me in later. But after you enter, no matter what you see, do not reveal it to anyone in the future. Otherwise, even though the two of you are close to me, I will definitely kill you." "I will obey Master's order." He Xiao and Qiu Yu nodded heavily. Both of them worshipped and were in awe of Jian Wushuang. Plus, Jian Wushuang had given them a new lease on life. They definitely wouldn't go against Jian Wushuang's order. Come on, let's head in. Jian Wushuang immediately drove the ancient spaceship towards the space-time storm. The space-time storm was terrifying, but the spaceship was equally barbaric. It hit a hole in the space-time storm forcefully, and the spaceship was immersed into the space-time storm. In the cabin, Jian Wushuang spread his soul power and felt the power of the surrounding space-time storm. The power is so scary. Luckily, the space-time storm formed a balance long ago. Otherwise, if it were to explode, it could even turn Snow Kingdom into ashes in a split second. Even I do not stand a chance to survive the space-time storm, Jian Wushuang muttered. However, due to the existence of the space-time storm, his hometown was never exposed. On the battlefield where his hometown was located, there shouldn't be a second person who knew besides King Gutong. The ancient spaceship continued to plunge to the other side of the space-time storm. Just as the spaceship drove past the entire space-time storm, a huge formation appeared before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang saw the formation, and he revealed a wide smile. The formation was created by his master Xian Yi. Then, the cultivators in Green Fire Palace and him set it up. When the formation was first set up, Jian Wushuang could tell the formation was unusual. Then when he saw it again, he was even more astonished. The formation was far more sturdy than he had imagined. Plus, the formation had blended into the space-time storm completely and driven the entire space-time storm. Unless one possessed the power to move the space-time storm, no one could move the formation, not even Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang was one of the people who had set up the formation, and he was from Green Fire World. Naturally, the formation wouldn't hinder him. Jian Wushuang waved and a bolt of divine power appeared in the huge formation in front of him. The formation suddenly shook, and there was a space tunnel that appeared. Through the space tunnel, Jian Wushuang drove the spaceship and entered the huge battlefield where his hometown was located. Even after he entered, Palace Master Yin in Green Fire World, who had been using the formation to keep watch of experts who entered from outside world, didn't notice at all. That day Jian Wushuang, who had left Green Fire World for more than 50,000 years, returned. It was still the same boundless battlefield. When the spaceship appeared on the battlefield, Jian Wushuang immediately put the spaceship into Qiankuan Ring, and he stepped foot into the void. Jian Wushuang towered in the void as he looked at the surroundings. The familiar battlefield and the familiar aura made Jian Wushuang take a deep breath. But suddenly Jian Wushuang looked surprised. That's not right. The soul aura on the battlefield. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He could feel the abundant spiritual energy of the battlefield. The intensity of spiritual energy was stronger by 100-fold, or even 1,000-fold compared to when he had left back then. So intense. Even Dayu World and Snow Kingdom didn't have such intense spiritual energy as the battlefield did. He was guessing that only spiritual energy in the 10 sanctuaries would be that intense. How could it be? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. The intensity of spiritual energy represented the worth of a cultivation realm. To cultivate at a place with intense spiritual energy, the effect was naturally better than at other places. Like 10 cultivation sanctuaries in Eternal Chaotic World. The reason why people yearned to visit, it was not only because it was highly concentrated with experts, but because the spiritual energy was the most intense in the entire Eternal Chaotic World. Hence its name of cultivation sanctuaries. But then on the battlefield where Green Fire World was, the intensity of spiritual energy could barely be compared to favorably with the 10 sanctuaries. The battlefield should be from ancient times, and it is extraordinary. In the tens of thousands of years when I left Green Fire World, the battlefield in Green Fire World definitely went through some incident. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn. Disciple Qiu Yu, let's go. Jian Wushuang beckoned. He Xiao and Xiao Yu could feel the spiritual energy that the battlefield contained as well, and they were amazed, but they didn't ask any questions. They heard Jian Wushuang, and they followed Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang knew which part of the battlefield he had landed on, and he knew where Green Fire Palace was. He didn't delay any further, but walked to Green Fire Palace. Soon, he arrived at Green Fire Palace, in front of the huge war fortress. The huge war fortress was covered in layers of formation. The formations carried power to a certain extent. It was at least a few times stronger than the formation that Jian Wushuang had set up before he left. Any layer of the formations could hinder an ordinary universe god. When Green Fire Palace had had a war with Jin Kingdom 50,000 years ago, Green Fire Palace had had such a huge formation, there had been no need for them to pay such a great price to defeat Jin Kingdom. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and overlooked the war fortress. He swept out his soul power and covered the entire war fortress. Although the war fortress could hinder ordinary universe gods, it was merely nominal to Jian Wushuang. His soul power could see through the internals of the war fortress clearly. The auras were in the war fortress. Jian Wushuang saw a few auras that he was familiar with, and he was thrilled. However, the few auras were much stronger than before. Haha! It seems that in the tens of thousands of years when I was away, Green Fire Palace has been through drastic changes. The overall power has increased tremendously. Jian Wushuang felt the auras below and revealed a smile. Chapter 1791 Your son has returned. In the past, the strongest people in the Green Fire Palace were the Universe Masters. Moreover, there were so little Universe Masters that it was pathetic. Before Jian Wushuang had risen to prominence, the Green Fire Palace had only had 5 Universe Masters. As for Heaven Masters, there were only about 200 of them. Such fighting capabilities were so weak that it was depressing. Due to that, they were forced by the Jin Kingdom, were to be unable to compete against the Jin Kingdom, even after paying huge prices, in the final great battle. If not for Jian Wushuang making a breakthrough at the critical moment in the end, and killing the monarch of the Jin Kingdom, who was at the level of a universe god of the first heaven, the Green Fire Palace would have been destroyed a long time ago. Moreover, the Green Fire world would definitely not exist either. However, on that very day after tens of thousands of years, the Green Fire Palace was a lot more powerful than before. At that moment, among the large number of cultivators who were gathered in the war fortress below, there was actually a total of 18 universe gods of the first heaven. As for universe masters, they were everywhere. If not for him knowing that the big formation that Xianyi had deployed was still present, and that no one from the outside was able to come in, Jian Wushuang would really suspect that the current Green Fire world was occupied by the powerhouses which came from the eternal chaotic world. Both of you wait for me here. After giving out his instructions, Jian Wushuang floated toward the Green Fire Palace below. In an open space in the Green Fire Palace, a fatty who wore a luxurious, loose and long robe was lying down and drinking wine. Beside him stood a bald-headed old man. Boring. The days are getting more and more boring. The fatty was drinking wine, and he felt extremely gloomy. I have told you before that this world is too small, and you should travel in a universe that is more vast. With that, it will be more interesting. However, you refuse to listen. As of now, it will not be so easy to leave even if you want to, the bald-headed old man said. How would I know that things would become like this? The fatty curled his lips. If I had known that this would be the case, I would have gone along with old 3 to travel outside 50,000 years ago. Stop complaining. It's useless even if you complain, the bald-headed old man said furiously. Ah! The fatty sighed and his eyes filled with recollection. Speaking of old 3, I wonder how he is doing outside. And now, I wonder what level he has achieved. Stop thinking about that brother of yours. The universe of the outside world is filled with danger. When he left, he barely possessed the fighting capabilities of a universe god. In the outside world, there are countless people who can kill him. Now that tens of thousands of years have passed, who knows if he is still alive? What an inauspicious remark. Old 3 is so impressive, he must still be alive. Moreover, he will definitely return in the future. The fatty had absolute confidence in old 3. Just then, Boss Wang Yuan, a voice could be heard abruptly. Who called me? The fatty was stunned. This voice is so familiar. It's old 3's voice. The fatty stood up abruptly. In front of him, a figure came into view slowly. It had a familiar face and aura. It was the old 3 who the fatty had mentioned. Old 3, it's really you? Wang Yuan revealed a delighted expression at once. At the same time, he pinched his own face, as he wanted to find out whether he was dreaming. Haha, I'm not dreaming. It's real. Great. Wang Yuan laughed loudly, and his huge body ran toward Jian Wushuang immediately. Without hesitation, he hugged Jian Wushuang. Boss Wang Yuan, even after not seeing you for so many years, you are still the same as before and you are still so smooth and round as well. Jian Wushuang teased, and he had an extremely good mood. Boss Wang Yuan. He was his genuine good brother who had gone through thick and thin with him. Old 3. Let's find a place and have a good drink. Wang Yuan took Jian Wushuang and headed to the imperial palaces, which was far away. No problem. Let's get the rest of the people as well. Jian Wushuang laughed. As the bald-headed old man who was by the side looked on as Wang Yuan and Jian Wushuang left, he became dumbfounded. This Jian Wushuang has actually returned for real? Moreover, his aura. The bald-headed old man squinted his eyes slightly. The bald-headed old man was a weapon spirit of the Loyalty Palace, and he had always followed Wang Yuan. As for the Loyalty Palace, it was born from the ancient battlefield nearby. Hence, the bald-headed old man was extremely knowledgeable. He could tell that Jian Wushuang's current aura was many times more powerful than it had been before. In no time, the news of Jian Wushuang's return spread with shocking speed. In a split second, the whole Green Fire Palace and the whole Green Fire world were in an uproar. Jian Wushuang had become a legend in the Green Fire world a long time ago. Even though tens of thousands of years had passed, this legend was still imprinted in the minds of many people, especially those experts who had gone through the decisive battle with the Jin Kingdom. That great battle had depended on Jian Wushuang's power alone to save all of them from a desperate crisis. In a vast courtyard, a large number of people had gathered. Most of them were the experts who had gone through that battle. Quite a number of them had interacted with Jian Wushuang before, and at that moment, they were chatting with Jian Wushuang joyfully and harmoniously. Old 3. An extremely emotional voice could be heard. After hearing the voice, Jian Wushuang looked over. When he saw the extremely beautiful black-robed young lady, he revealed an elated smile. Haha, Old 4. The two of them hugged each other right away. To Jian Wushuang, Su Ro was like his biological sister. In no time, Shuelingtian brought a woman over. Shuelingtian was Jian Wushuang's brother, and he was also Xianyi's lineal disciple. He also had an extremely good relationship with Jian Wushuang. Upon seeing his own senior, Jian Wushuang was also extremely delighted. As for that woman, she cried tears of joy the moment she saw Jian Wushuang. At the same time, she knelt down. Greetings to Master from your disciple Lin Lan. Master, you have finally returned. Little girl, please get up. Jian Wushuang laughed and waved his hands. In his life, he had only accepted 2 people as his disciple. In particular, Lin Lan was the first disciple he accepted. She was also someone who Jian Wushuang owed greatly, because he, a master, had almost never guided Lin Lan before. He only gave her some resources, so that she would grow by herself. It should be known that for He Xiao, his registered disciple, he would give him some advice occasionally back when they were in the lineage of Star. However, Lin Lan did not disappoint Jian Wushuang as well. In terms of realm, she had become a universe master. Although that naturally meant nothing in the eternal chaotic world, it was already very shocking in the Green Fire world. Jian Wushuang was chatting with his senior and disciple. At the same time, he was asking them something about the ancient sect. With the disappearance of Master Xianyi and him leaving the Green Fire world, the ancient sect had always been under Shuelingtian's control, and everything was all right. Just then, all of a sudden, a man and woman appeared in the courtyard. As the two of them appeared, the voice of Jian Wushuang, who was chatting with Shuelingtian, disappeared. He then stood up, and he looked at the two of them with mixed feelings. Similarly, the man and the woman were looking closely at Jian Wushuang. Father, mother, your son has returned. Chapter 1792. Shocking change. The courtyard was in total silence. Before everyone's gazes, a man and woman walked forward slowly. Jian Nantian, with silvery white hair, gave out a unique aura. He extended his hand to pat Jian Wushuang's shoulder. It's great to have you back, Jian Nantian smiled. Looking at his smile, Jian Wushuang felt his body and mind relax. Then, Jian Nantian and Ji Wuming sat in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was surprised as he noticed his father's aura. The aura was the strongest out of everyone at the scene. Universe God in the second heaven? Jian Wushuang was astonished. Forget about the fact that there were many universe gods in the first heaven. His father had become a universe god in the second heaven. Father, everyone, what happened? How can all of your powers increase so tremendously? The spiritual energy in this battlefield, how did it become this intense? Jian Wushuang asked. Listening to Jian Wushuang's questions, everyone exchanged a look and Wang Yuan laughed. Old 3, we must give credit to your master for the battlefield's transformation. My master? Jian Wushuang was stunned, and he instantly responded. Could it be the formation that my master created? Yes, that formation, Wang Yuan smiled. 50,000 years ago, your mysterious master disappeared, but he passed you a formation. Then, you and Palace Master Yin from Green Fire World, and also the higher-ups, set up the formation. Then, the formation became the biggest defense for Green Fire World. Without Green Fire Palace's permission, no one could barge into the battlefield. Seems like the invasion of Jin Kingdom definitely won't happen again. However, the power of the formation doesn't just stop there. After the formation was set up, which was after you left the battlefield, including the spiritual energy in Green Fire World, slowly became more intense under the influence of the formation. In the beginning, the spiritual energy didn't increase much, but as time went by, the spiritual energy grew more and more intense. Now, the spiritual energy in the battlefield has increased by 1,000-fold compared to before. As for Green Fire World, the battlefield gave birth to Green Fire World, and the transformation was even greater. You don't know. The spiritual energy in Green Fire World is 3 times more intense than the battlefield. Jian Wushuang was astonished. He could feel that the intensity of spiritual energy in the battlefield could be compared favorably with the 10 sanctuaries. But Green Fire World was 3 times stronger than the battlefield? How intense would it be? The cultivation environment in Green Fire World already overtook the 10 sanctuaries? Jian Wushuang muttered in disbelief. Besides, although the spiritual energy is much stronger than before, the battlefield, including Green Fire World, is in constant change. The intensity of the spiritual energy is constantly rising. Such intense spiritual energy naturally raises the probability of experts. Hence, in the 50,000 years that you were away, there was a big bunch of experts that flourished in Green Fire World. 50,000 years ago, Doctrine Masters were already considered as the top experts in Green Fire World. However, in Green Fire World now, there are Doctrine Masters all over. It was nothing. Even Heaven Master is not considered as a top expert in Green Fire World. Those who were qualified to stand at the peak would be Universe Master and Universe Gods. Now Green Fire World has more than 30 Universe Gods. However, they are mostly Universe Gods in the first heaven. Only your father alone is extremely talented and stepped into Universe God in the second heaven, Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang was amazed. The cultivation environment determined the standard and quality of expert from a place. Then the cultivation environment in Green Fire World was much stronger by a few hundred, even a few thousand times. Naturally, the experts born were many more. Plus, there were many cultivators in Green Fire World, but they didn't have anyone to guide them. Previously, the strongest in Green Fire World was only a Universe Master. As for anything above Universe Master, no one knew how to cultivate or improve. They had merely depended on themselves to explore and comprehend. At most, they could receive some pointers from the surrounding ancient battlefields, but the pointers weren't complete. Under such circumstances, Green Fire World could reach such a level in 50,000 years. If they were to receive complete guidance from Universe Gods, real gods, or even almighties, and they continued to propagate in the next 10,000 or 100,000 years, just how great would it be? Jian Wushuang was already amazed by the thought itself. Jian Wushuang, your hometown might stand a chance to become a new sanctuary, or even higher. King of venomous worms' solemn voice rang in Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang took another deep breath and calmed himself down from the surprise. Oh yeah, it has been so long. I didn't know you happened to visit too. Where's old two? Also Tang Emperor and Uncle Xiao? Why aren't they here? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. However, the moment he brought up about old two, Wang Yuan and Su Rao's faces stiffened. The surrounding people's faces changed. Why? Wang Yuan, Su Rao and the other people at the scene naturally couldn't hide from Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. What happened? Old three. Wang Yuan paused and then clenched his teeth as he said, Old two, he died. What? Jian Wushuang's face changed. Not just old two, but also Emperor Tang and Emperor Xiao. Both of them died too, Wang Yuan continued. Jian Wushuang couldn't hold back anymore when he heard that. Died? Old two, Emperor Tang and Uncle Xiao died? How is it possible? Jian Wushuang's eyes were bloodshot. His roar reverberated in the courtyard, and he looked almost mad. He couldn't be blamed. The three people that had died were too important to him. Old two Yang Zishuan was his brother. The same had happened to Wang Yuan and Su Rao. They were sworn brothers and sisters. They had been through life and death situations and shared an intimate relationship. Uncle Xiao, also Emperor Xiao. When he was weak, Emperor Xiao had treated him with kindness. Besides, he had another identity. He was also Lung Rushuang's father, his father-in-law. As for Emperor Tang, he was the founder of Tang of the East. He was also one of the most ancient experts in Green Fire World. Back then, Jian Wushuang had yet to rise up, and there had only been 5 Universe Masters who were in commanding positions. Among the 5 of Universe Masters, there were 4 who had died. Only Emperor Tang was alive. He was the only survivor. Then even the last ancient existence had died too? Who was it? Who killed them? Furious, Jian Wushuang was filled with rage. Jian Wushuang was raging with anger. Chapter 1793 13 Devil Bloods. Before Jian Wushuang left, the Tang Emperor, Emperor Xiao and Yang Zishuan, were already at a level higher than that of a Dao Master. They had a long lifespan, and they would definitely not die a normal death in just tens of thousands of years. Since that was the case, there was only one possibility. They were killed by someone else. Who was it? Jian Wushuang looked at Wang Yuan with his eyes filled with hatred to the point that they were about to crack. Wang Yuan's expression had a ghastly pale expression, and he only spoke after a long time. The people who killed second brother, Elder Tang Emperor and Emperor Xiao, were the 13 Devil Bloods. The 13 Devil Bloods? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes slightly. When he was still in the Green Fire World back then, he had never heard of the 13 Devil Bloods. Old three, please calm down. I will fill you in slowly, Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang suppressed his fury and murderous intent forcefully to calm himself down, so that he could listen to Wang Yuan. I have just told you. After you left, the Green Fire World underwent a great change, where an unending stream of experts were born. Second brother is extremely talented, and he is only inferior to you among the 4 of us. As for Elder Tang Emperor and Emperor Xiao, they were the earliest batch of experts, and their abilities rose the most. Moreover, as the Green Fire World had just experienced a great battle with the Jin Kingdom, many experts were extremely united. Hence, at the start, everything was going in the right direction. However, thousands of years ago, the Green Fire World underwent a great change, and the 13 Devil Bloods appeared. There is a total of 13 people in the 13 Devil Bloods, and they did not have any reputation in the past. After they appeared, they fought all the way into Tang of the East. Tang of the East had long been the Green Fire World's first country, and its abilities were extremely powerful. Moreover, with the second brother, the Tang Emperor, Emperor Xiao and other similar experts keeping watch, Tang of the East was rightfully impregnable. However, in the end, Tang of the East was massacred by the 13 Devil Bloods easily. In the end, Elder Tang Emperor, Emperor Xiao and second brother, were killed by the 13 Devil Bloods. At the same time, the whole Tang of the East was completely occupied by the 13 Devil Bloods. The movements of the 13 Devil Bloods were too fast. They were so fast that even the Green Fire Palace was unable to react. After that, the 13 Devil Bloods created a devil church and looked for believers wantonly. With that, their abilities got stronger day by day. Could it be that the Green Fire Palace allowed the devil church to continue getting stronger? Jian Wushuang asked with a low voice. Of course not. Before Tang of the East underwent the Great Change, the Green Fire Palace stepped in. However, it was useless as the 13 Devil Bloods were too strong. Wang Yuan said bitterly. Many people beside him also could not help but lower their heads. Too strong. Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. They are really too strong. Among the 13 Devil Bloods, none of them are someone who the Green Fire Palace can compete with. For example, currently, the strongest person in the Green Fire Palace is your father, Palace Master Jian Nantian. However, even if it were him, he would be completely helpless when he comes across the 13 Devil Bloods, Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang could not help but look at his own father. Jian Nantian was a proud person, and he considered himself the best in the world. However, as he listened to Wang Yuan, he nodded his head. It was obvious that he acknowledged that fact. Before the gap in terms of abilities, even if the Green Fire Palace wanted to take revenge for second brother, Elder Tang Emperor and Emperor Shao, what can we do? Wang Yuan sighed lightly. Abilities, right? Jian Wushuang clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. I will avenge second brother, Elder Tang Emperor and Emperor Shao. Boss Wang Yuan, where is the base of the Devil Church? Jian Wushuang had already stood up. Old 3, don't be reckless. Wang Yuan stopped Jian Wushuang right away. Shuanger, Jian Nantian also frowned. It's useless. The 13 Devil Bloods are really too powerful. According to Dan Xin's predictions, the 13 Devil Bloods have already achieved the level of a real god. Moreover, they are not normal real gods. Even when placed in the vast eternal chaotic world, any one of them would be considered a first-class expert, let alone the 13 Devil Bloods teaming up. Wang Yuan sighed lightly. Old 3, I know that you are filled with sorrow, and that you wish to avenge second brother and the rest of them. All of us wish to do so as well. However, no matter how much we want to avenge them, we cannot send ourselves to our deaths. Send ourselves to our deaths? They are merely trash. What right do they have to kill me? Jian Wushuang laughed disdainfully. Old 3, they are real gods, Wang Yuan said in an imperative tone. Everyone by the side also looked at Jian Wushuang. They had gotten some information from the ancient battlefield nearby, and they knew that the pure sun realm, which was also the real god realm, was after the universe god realm. With regards to real gods, they also had some knowledge about them. Real gods were super experts. For example, for a universe god of the second heaven like Jian Nantian, the weakest real god could kill hundreds upon hundreds of him with a flip of his palm. In the current Green Fire world, real gods were invincible. Upon hearing Wang Yuan's words, Jian Wushuang laughed, although he was extremely furious. Haha. Real gods bullshit. Forget about real gods. Even if an almighty at the level of a Sir God or Emperor God were to kill my brothers, I would want him dead as well. Jian Wushuang's words caused everyone present to be shocked. From Jian Wushuang's words, they could also tell that Jian Wushuang seemed to not spare a glance for real gods. Old 3, you are able to kill real gods? Wang Yuan opened his eyes wide and asked. Jian Nantian, Su Rou and the rest of the people also looked at Jian Wushuang in succession. Humph, real gods. In the years that I have traveled in the eternal chaotic world, I have already killed so many real gods that I have lost count of them. Even almighties who are above real gods, I have also killed more than 5 of them. For these 13 Devil Bloods or whatever they are called, even if they were top chaotic real gods, it would be easy for me to kill them, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Upon hearing that, everyone was first stunned. After that, they were over the moon. Wang Yuan cried tears of joy. That's great. That's great, Old 3. We must avenge them. You must really avenge second brother. Old 3, Old 2 cannot die for nothing. Su Rou also said earnestly. Kill all of them. Destroy the 13 Devil Bloods. The 13 Devil Bloods had done all kinds of evil. For many years, the whole Green Fire Palace has been crushed under their feet, and we only dared to be furious, but not say anything. If not for us controlling the great spacetime formation nearby, which caused the 13 Devil Bloods to be worried, they would have gone on a killing spree and killed all of us a long time ago. And now kill. They have to die. Everyone in the area unleashed shocking murderous intents in succession. In the Green Fire world, countless cultivators hated the 13 Devil Bloods to the bone. However, they suffered from a lack of abilities. However, at that time, Jian Wushuang, the savior who had turned things around with his power alone at the critical moment back then in the great battle with the Jin Kingdom, had returned. This had allowed them to see hope. Just then, Jian Nanshan's expression changed abruptly. What's wrong? Jian Wushuang looked at Jian Nantian. The people from the Devil Church have come to our doorstep, Jian Nantian said. Oh. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold at once. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.